So you're going to go back. Just concluded the executive session. If any person's been back and then we're going to state our names. No, it's just
Got it.
And then what you can add here is Ashley. So she won't be here. And Aaron Smith. So you just add
Text.
he called. Yeah.
This is what we call one line CMA.
I'm not, no comment from me, okay? So here's your written correspondence. This is when Mike Mackay talks about the cluster development. This is written correspondence regarding the cluster development. What I've done, I put copies on the drive, so all of council have copies of it as well. You don't have to read it. You could just say, you could do a, Miss Miller is for, or Miss, you know what I mean? This, you could say that Randy Colbert. Under consent calendar, Val wanted me to make a few statements about the intergovernmental agreement.
Sounds good.
So,
He just told me that.
okay.
Come on, damn it.
Hold on all day in the conference room and watch whatever parts of it. I do have some work. Great. Okay, good. So that's Michael Dalton at the table there. At the press table. It's going to be a long night if all these people are going to talk. I should go get that. Is it 7 o'clock yet?
Crazy.
I gotta go get the sign-in sheet. I'll be right back.
Suzanne, you ready?
Yes, thank you, sir.
Good evening, everybody. The time is now 7:01 p.m. and the executive session has been concluded. Will all participants in the executive session please state their names for the record?
Val Carr.
Kayla Case.
Carol Harvey.
Hillary LeBar.
Suzanne Leclerc.
Darren Tangeman.
Sally Riley.
Ashley Schnagel Hernandez and Aaron Smith were also in the executive session. If any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into the executive session occurred during the executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I ask that you state your concerns now. Okay, hearing none. The next agenda item is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you all rise and join me. Roll call. We did that already. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we move on to agenda item number 3 and appointment to the Historical Preservation Committee. Council, you have a copy of the application? Everybody?
I've seen it.
Everybody's seen it? Craig Haney, is Craig here? Craig, would you like to come forward and give you a minute or a minute and a half to introduce yourself and tell us why you're here today?
If I may just give a little bit of background.
Please
You
do.
can come to the podium, sir. Mayor and council, there's one position currently available on the Historical Preservation Committee, and that's as a result of the resignation of Amy Hopfe. So Mr. Haney would fill this position until January 1st of 2019.
Thank you. Mr. Haney, welcome.
Thank you.
He's filling her term.
What can I tell you?
How about just your name and address to start and why you're here today?
My name is Craig Haney, 930 Sun Valley Drive here in Woodland Park. I was asked if I'd be interested in serving on the Historic Preservation Committee. I have a lot of experience.
Thank you.
I have a lot of experience in that area.
Kip, I'm not sure that's on.
Is it on?
Okay, sorry.
Just have to talk close to the microphone. Thank you.
Never had this trouble. I have a really big voice. So.
That sounds good.
Again, I have a lot of experience in historic preservation, and going into semi-retirement at the end of the year, I've sold both of my firms and looking for something to where I can begin to give something back to the community. And historic preservation's always been something I've been very interested in.
Sounds good. Council, questions?
My question for Suzanne is, if the term ends on January 1st, then Mr. Haney will be back again, I assume.
Hopefully.
Okay. Well, I look forward to working with you. That is the committee that I support as the council representative, so welcome.
Thanks, Carol. Anyone else? Hillary? No? Val?
Quite an extensive resume, references on the end of your application.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you for applying.
Okay. No other questions? Suzanne, we'll get a motion from somebody to approve Mr. Haney.
Move to appoint Mr. Haney to fill the remaining tenure of after the resignation of our previous member of the Historical Preservation Committee.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you. Carr?
Yes.
Case?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
LeBar? Levy?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Mr. Haney, thanks very much. Thanks for your service, and I think you'll enjoy it. You got a great committee there, and lots of people like yourself very interested in historical preservation in our community, so thank you very much. And Suzanne is going to swear you in.
Okay.
without swearing at you.
Never had that happen before.
I'll ask you to join me out front here.
Raise your right hand and please state your name.
I, Greg Haney,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Colorado,
of Colorado,
the charter and ordinances
the charter and ordinances
of the city of Woodland Park,
of the city of Woodland,
and that I will faithfully perform
faithfully perform
the duties of the office of committee member
the duties of the office of committee member
for the Historical Preservation Committee on which I'm about to enter. Congratulations. Thank you. Have you signed this? You can keep one and we'll keep one.
And Mayor Levy, I do have a notebook for Mr. Haney, and we have a meeting on Monday afternoon, so we're going to put him to work right away.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you, Suzanne. We move on to agenda item 3B and the cluster development zoning change presentation, and Mike Nakai.
Good evening. My name is Mike Nakai, 225 Morningstar Court. I'm here tonight. We are to present a proposal that the provision for cluster developments within SR and UR zoning districts be eliminated from the municipal codes. I submit that these developments are unproven,
I'm
unnecessary.
sorry, sir.
Yeah.
It's not for necessarily the people in this room,
Yeah.
but for people at home that are trying to listen. It's really important that you speak as loudly as you
Okay.
can so everybody can hear. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
I submit that these developments are unproven, unnecessary, unfair, and unwise. So what are the cluster developments? Essentially, this provision allows for dwellings to be constructed closer together and potentially at a density significantly higher than otherwise allowed by current zoning and the comprehensive plan. In order to accomplish this, the front and the rear setbacks are cut in half, adjacent E-to-E spacing set to 10 feet, the 40% open space requirement on the lot has been waived, and there is no minimum lot size. The cluster provision was suggested by a developer and adopted in our code in 2009. If I were a developer, it makes perfect sense. Reduce the infrastructure and maximize revenue per acre. Since 2009, it has never been implemented in Woodland Park, but the first application was submitted a few months ago. This first application called for 21 patio homes to be placed on 7 acres at the top of Majestic Drive. This density was 300% higher than the SR zoned area, which is clearly shown on the comprehensive plan for this neighborhood. After significant community opposition, the application was reduced to 13 patio homes. The Planning Commission still voted this down 7-1. So what do I mean by unnecessary? If such a project is warranted, the applicant can submit for a zoning change. If the use isn't specifically called for, they can use the CUP process. Other waivers could be pursued as variances in their application. The cluster proposed into an existing area feels dramatically unfair to the existing residents. What do you say to the existing property owners in these neighborhoods? What do you say to the family that just purchased a $750,000 home across the street from this cluster development? How do you explain that the planning department that we count on to protect them deems these developments within current code? In his dissenting vote, Chairman DeVoe stated that he could not allow such harm to come to existing residents. These clusters represent a loophole in the comprehensive plan as shown by the next slide. Here you can see the contested area in the comprehensive plan right on our website, calling for 9 lots on 7 acres, which is in harmony with the surrounding neighborhoods. Also note that the National Forest boundary is a couple hundred feet from this. I'm sure you all know that in Woodland Park, the entire town has not really clear-cut the trees. We've integrated our homes into the trees. You can see this back on that map, on that aerial photo in the back. What this does is it blurs the wildland and the urban interface, which is also known as the WUI. It's the wildland-urban interface. Why are these unwise? The most important reason for banning these clusters is that they present a catastrophic fire danger in the WUI. Now that's a pretty bold statement, I know, but follow me through several studies performed after the Waldo Canyon fire and the catastrophic home losses in these locations. This FACT report is a federal report by a number of federal agencies. From this report, more homes were lost due to home-to-home ignition rather than wildland-to-home ignition. In Mountain Shadows, even 12 to 20-foot spaced homes were destroyed from home-to-home ignition. The proposed cluster in Woodland Park had 10-foot spacing in several cases. This picture shows a patio home development in Mountain Shadows off Flying W Ranch Road. Coincidentally, this is Majestic Drive. North is to the top, west is to the left, and on June 26, the fire came out of the west, rolled over those mountains, and into Mountain Shadows. Now what you can see here is these homes on the left, which are spaced quite far apart, the fire burned through them, but these homes were spared. It crossed Flying W Ranch, which is a 5-lane road, got into this patio home community and laid waste. Okay, 40% of all of the homes lost in the Waldo Canyon fire were lost in this one neighborhood. Then the fire went up this hill, and again, homes with larger spacing were spared. The FACT report concluded that close proximity between these homes is the probable cause of the home-to-home fire spread. Another federal study from the National Institute of Standards. Majestic Drive highlights this potential hazard of high density and low separation, particularly when adjacent to the wildlands and dangerous topographic configurations. The next picture, this is Courtney Drive, which are single-family homes, unique single-family homes, spaced 14 to 20 foot apart. Post-fire damage, again, post-fire damage shows the fire spared homes across the street with probably twice the spacing of the homes along Courtney. You can go back and see, these are a little more tightly packed. These are not, they're still close together, but maybe just twice the spacing. The fire from the FACT report, from the home-to-home spread, we have a phenomenon called radiant heat exposure. The radiant heat from the house on fire is what catches the adjacent house on fire. It's not the wildlands, actually the fire front from the wildland fire burning into the next home. It's home-to-home spread because of spacing. There's another federal study for the Pike San Isabel National Forest. Home destruction was largely house-to-house due to overlapping home ignition zones, or high Zs. So if you have cleared the space around your home, you're supposed to have so many feet of clearance around your home. But if you and your neighbor share that, it's no longer just your safe space. You're at risk by what your neighbor puts next to their house. This report is from the Colorado Springs Fire Department. Again, confirmed home-to-home ignition, and this report concludes that the single greatest thing a homeowner can do is to ensure adequate distance between their home and their neighbor's house. The FireWise guidelines for the woolly or the wildland or the mountain community environment is 30 feet of clear space from the foundation to the property line on all sides. In the Highlands project, there were homes that didn't have 30 feet setback in any direction. Now, basic firewood storage guidelines are to place your firewood 30 feet from your home. All of these homes had fireplaces, but there's no way to safely store that. I'm going to conclude with this picture because really this picture says 1,000 words. The fire can burn, so in a wildland interface, the fire will eventually come. I've lived here 17 years. I've either packed up my house or actually evacuated on 3 separate occasions in 17 years. Okay, and so it can happen. It probably will happen. You know, I know that if I was in your shoes and I had the opportunity to prevent this, I would. Your opportunity is here and now, right here today, to prevent something like this from happening up here. You have any questions?
Thank you very much, Council. You have any questions for Mr. Nakai?
Thank you.
Darren, you want to fill us in on where we're going to go from here? Or Suzanne?
I'll let Sally actually.
Sally?
The intent of the proposal tonight.
What the community is asking is to repeal the cluster development provision out of our municipal code. I would submit that it has not been implemented. We had one proposal. We do have other areas within our community that may be wise to have a cluster development where you can have preserved open space in a format where you're not having as much infrastructure. And so I believe that the process worked, that perhaps was not the best choice to have in that particular location, but it is a tool in the toolbox, and I don't believe that we should just repeal something out of the municipal code because it did not work in a specific location. So it is up to City Council. However, if you would like to refer the discussion back to the Planning Commission, they were the ones who brought this forward back in 2009. They can perhaps tweak what we already have to have a better, well-defined code and bring something back to you.
Yeah, I think that would make a lot of sense. Let me ask you this. Planning Commission's vote of 7-1, I'm sure you were there, but how would you characterize the people's vote against? Was it mostly because of fire concerns? Or can you even speak to that?
That was a good piece of it, but it was more about the compatibility within the existing surrounding area. If this had been proposed perhaps over by the high school or in a different use, as opposed to the middle of Paradise of Colorado with the surrounding large lots, it may have been more appropriate in another area within the community.
Sounds good. Council, what do you recommend? Kelly?
I think Sally has a good point. I think it's a tool, and the process worked for the location not being appropriate. That area is also heavily forested, and there are areas, for instance, you mentioned the lower part of Forest Edge, that it might be a good development tool in that area. I would hate to tie our hands, and as we saw, the process worked well, and it worked in behalf of the majority of the citizens and their stand on it. So I would say at this time, maybe the process worked the way it was supposed to, and that's how it's supposed to work. So it seems like we're okay.
Carol?
I think Val had his hand up first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem Carr.
Thank you. So Sally, you mentioned referring it back to Planning Commission. I assume you have some ideas that might make it a better ordinance or whatever it is, code, zoning code.
Yes.
I guess we'd all, I don't know, I would welcome that.
And the other thing that the Planning Commission is wanting to work on is a fire-wise approach. We had looked at that very closely many years ago during the Healthy Forest Initiative and decided to use more of an educational approach. But with the concern of being in the wildland-urban interface, we may need to look at more regulatory approach for wildfire protection. So the Planning Commission is also going to discuss that topic as well.
I just wanted to echo the fact that the process worked this time. I was on the Planning Commission when we actually added that to our zoning options. And it wasn't codified, but one of the discussions we had at that time is that one of the purposes for the cluster housing was there would be terrain surrounding the cluster housing that was not buildable, but it would remain open, that there would be a percentage of the property that would have to be dedicated to open space. Open space in itself is also a fire mitigation practice. We did not codify that, we just discussed it, and maybe that's something that the Planning Commission could look at.
And that's exactly the kinds of tweaks that we'd like to make, is to clarify the open space, to make sure that it is truly to the benefit of the entire public, and that we can require that that open space is mitigated for fire hazards. So with some tweaks to the existing code, I think the Planning Commission would really welcome that opportunity.
I would like to see that happen then. Just to go back to the Planning Commission for a review and areas that could codify the actual approach to cluster housing that would include the dedication of open space.
Absolutely, Kelly.
Yeah, we can get to a point where we can regulate ourselves into circles. So as long as it's reasonable, a review is always good. So.
Well, I think everybody would agree that we have a housing shortage, and higher density housing is going to be something that we're going to be examining as we move forward. And so appreciate your efforts in bringing new thoughts back to us, and we'll go from there. I have a couple. I'll just say that Randy Coburn, Sharon Coburn, and the Miller family, who I think I saw here today. Is Claudia here? If you'd like to come forward and take a minute or two, but you see the direction that we're going in, and I've got you on my list, so I'm going to give you an opportunity. But I've got your letter. All council has a copy of your letter. And for 3B, I'm sorry, I've got Bill and Claudia Miller. I don't see anyone else on that, but if there is, that's fine. That's great. Come forward if you'd like, sir. You put 5B, I don't know what 5B is. That's all right, you're good.
Yeah, thanks.
You got a couple of minutes, sir, just so you know.
All right, well, I plan to shorten it up a little bit. My name is Doug Ball. First of all, good evening. My name is Doug Ball, and I live at 1050 Wintergreen Court. And I'm one of the group of neighbors that opposed the cluster development at the top of Majestic Parkway. Almost a year ago, a couple of our neighbors were approached at the Parade of Homes on a house on Spacious Skies Drive to see if they were interested in the new cluster home development at top of Majestic Parkway. This is over a year ago, and we didn't know anything about it, so we were pretty surprised. So soon we learned the developer had submitted paperwork for the development to the planning department. So a group of our neighbors got together. We started researching what could be done. We set up 5 different committees, which culminated in our presentation to the Planning Commission. And as a side note, one of the things that came about as a result of our research was our presentation to you all last year about the poor condition of the stormwater control in our area. And just some of that, just want to let you know, some of that is still unresolved. That's the property that Will Brown owns. Nothing's been done with that. And our discussion back then with you all was that the city was going to take charge of this, and if they needed to, get the work done, and then back charge Will Brown or whatever he decided to do. And nothing's been done, and we got lucky on this last monsoon season, but another one's coming. So, and you're aware that the Planning Commission denied the denial of 7-1 for this proposal for 13 units on 7 acres, though the Planning Department had recommended approval. So if we look, this is the, so the main reason for denial was based on the fact that the proposed asked for 13 homes on 7 acres. Basically, that subdivision was 7 acres and was going to have 13 homes on it. And the justification for the extra units on that was we had hardships up on top of other parts of Paradise, Paradise of Colorado, but it didn't become part of this. So in a way, this is a misuse of this. In this case, it was a misuse because it didn't include the open space for the 4 extra houses. So, and then of course, Mike went over the history about the municipal code, and was added to the municipal code in 2009. Prior to that, 2009, the owner of Paradise, Colorado, requested a rezone of the portion of that property from SR to multifamily so he could build duplexes or some sort. And the rezone was denied by you all because it had existing SR zoning. It is my and many others' opinion that the cluster development provision was developed in order to circumvent the need to rezone. Why do I say this? Just think, if we had not gotten the word about this subdivision and opposed it, this subdivision may have been approved and built without the green space as required by this provision. And the end result is no different than if it had been rezoned as a parcel to allow 7 dwellings units per acre. And the only big problem with that is it would have been built in a subdivision that would have not been in compliance with the code. And this
Mr.
kind
Ball,
of
I'm going to give you about another 30 seconds.
That's all I got. And this is kind of stuff is what lawsuits are made of when that happens. And this provision has only been used, or I should say misused once. Please don't let it happen again. Our neighborhood team will not be there to stop it if it happens to another neighborhood. Please remove this cluster development provision from the municipal code. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think you'd have to agree that the process worked, though.
Oh, yeah.
You can say what if, but what if happened? And everybody got a letter in the neighborhood. Everybody knew what was going on. Everybody had an opportunity to go to planning. They did, and the process worked. If I were you, I'd be up here saying, great job on the process.
Good job on the process.
Thanks.
That's what we heard.
Thanks. Thank the planning department. They do a great job.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay. I'm going to move forward, and Deb Miller, Visitor Center presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you so much for allowing me to come tonight to do my yearly Visitor Center presentation. Before I get started with that, though, I do want to introduce a couple of people that are here this evening. We have our chairman here, chairman of the board, Jim Olson, is here. I have some other board members. I believe Vera Egbert is here. Lenore Hotchkiss is here. I have Kim Monjeski. I'm not sure. And then, of course, Darren is on our board as well. So I thank you for the support coming out tonight. Hope you're going to learn a few new things this evening as we go through this quickly and talk to you. But I think it's important that I talk to you about the fact that what I'm giving you tonight has to do with October 1st of 2017 through September 30th of 2018. Those are the numbers that I can pull to come to you tonight to be able to give you good statistics about the Visitor Center. We're going to talk to you a little bit about advertising. We're going to move into data, which is always important. We're going to talk about lodging because lodging is really the crux of everything that works with the visitor center, customer service, and then, of course, you're results-oriented, and so are we. So when I arrived and realized that we had the contract for the Visitor Center, we created a Visitor Center mission. It's outside of what the Chamber mission is, but it's important to understand that for the Visitor Center, it's here to strengthen the awareness of the city and the region as a destination point for visitors. This stimulates the economy. It puts money back through sales tax, lodging tax, and property tax into the city. So one of the things different this evening is I have 3 special speakers that are going to come up to you tonight, or come up here tonight, and they're going to talk to you a little bit about advertising, because that's really the key to the Visitor Center dollars, is the advertising. With the limited dollars that we have, how can we be strategic? How can we do that? And we've been able to do it with the 3 partners that you're going to hear from tonight. First up is Amberly Brown. She's an account executive with Comcast Spotlight Advertising. And Amberly, I'm going to call you up to the microphone.
So I'll just go over, hi, by the way. I'll just go over this.
Excuse me, before you start, please, if you'll just give us your name and address for the record.
My name's Amberly Brown, and I live in Colorado Springs. Do you need my full address?
That's perfect.
Okay. So Debbie had asked me to put together a little information about what you guys have done for 2018 for your advertising. I put together a little overview. We've been partnering with Greater Woodland Park Chamber since 2013. Since that time, we've strategically planned your advertising to make sure that we've maximized the effectiveness of the dollars you guys spend. Moving from simply using just cable advertising, this year we recommended that you incorporate other forms of advertising that we were able to offer, including over-the-top TV, which includes like Apple Television, video on demand. Debbie took those recommendations and we were able to move forward with that this year. We also have used sports, so Monday Night Football on ESPN. You guys have commercials there as well. Just a quick overview of the things that you did do or what we've done with you. This year in Colorado Springs, so our full DMA goes from Palmer Lake to Trinidad, and then we've also used Southern Denver. So that includes Littleton, Castle Rock, and Parker, those areas. So in those areas, you guys have run a combination of things. 230 bonus commercials, so those are just what we gave to you outside of our political window, because you guys have been a great partner with us. We did 14 paid commercials in a short period of time. We also did Monday Night Football, so there have been 3 commercials on the in one of the Monday night games in September, and there's one coming up in November where you'll have 4 more commercials. We've also done 111,560 impressions that run. That's our pre-roll or our digital. That's where it runs if you're watching like your Apple TV, if you're watching video on demand, those types of things. In those impressions, it led to 454 clicks to your website. That's really high for industry standards. You guys are at a considerable larger number than normal. We did target the audiences that went to. So we targeted to make sure that the demo, it ran in households that had a household income of $75,000 or more, and they were also people who are more likely to be outdoor enthusiasts. 71.53% of your commercials were viewed in full, so that means people didn't skip through them or they didn't stop watching them, which is also a very high number, much larger than average, which means that 731.99 hours of your commercial was watched in this short amount of advertising time you guys did. So we have a little bit still to come. Like I said, the commercials on ESPN, and then we have a few more impressions to run this year for your digital. That's all I have.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you.
So we'll pass all of this to you after we're finished. Next up is Tom Miller. Tom is the owner of Military Cable Ads at Fort Carson. Tom?
Thank you very much. My name is Tom Miller. I live in Colorado Springs. I've owned the cable system on Fort Carson. We're in just about 30 years now. And we started when there were approximately 6,800 soldiers living on Fort Carson or assigned to Fort Carson. Now we're up to 79,000 assigned to Fort Carson. Every 3,700 soldiers equals $200 million in annual payroll. Just to kind of give you an idea of the fact there. Teller County has more retired special operations soldiers more than any other county in the United States. We also have now, as of November 1st of 2017, we now have more active duty Army, Air Force, Navy, and Marines, combined active duty military, than any other town or city in the country. Next thing is Fort Carson has been chosen all 14 years best hometown in the Army, which means it has the highest re-enlistment percentage. And it's a lot to do with the community, including Oktoberfest, which has been a very important thing. Everybody knows about it. I presently have a little over 28,000 soldiers returning to Fort Carson. 21,000 of them, it started 2 days ago, and 21,000, they'll all be here as long as it works out with the airlines by Christmas. We also have an additional 7,000, another brigade that's returning from exercise the 15th of this month. And so it has a tremendous effect, especially when you consider a little over 65% of all the money earned in Colorado Springs, for instance, is DOD, Department of Defense income. So it's a win deal for both. Starting 3 years ago, Colorado Springs and the surrounding area, of which Woodland Park is part of that area, was chosen as the best town or cities next to a military reservation in the country. As a result, we just picked up what I call Top Gun. And Top Gun is a battalion or 1,000 specialty soldiers that teach half foreign soldiers and half Army, Air Force, Navy, and Marines to help make them better special ops. Fort Carson is becoming much more aligned with that, and will continue to do that because of the job that we all do. And there are costs for 30-second spots, a little bit less than most, $2.50. And then with what we've done with Woodland Park is we give them, again, half again over, or double that, I should say. So that works out really well. The biggest thing that we can do now as a community here as well is to take care of the soldiers and family members. Over 70% are married. The average one has 3.2 dependents. So very, very pleased. Retirements are very high in this area and will continue to grow. Any questions?
Thank you. Go
I
ahead,
did
Ken.
have a question. On those 30-second spots, how many do we do in a day or a week or a month?
That will depend upon, with Debbie, what we normally do is we'll start about May, and then we'll run as far as Woodland Park and the community and what's available. And then we'll have the second prong on that will be for Oktoberfest. And to advertise that, in fact, they have a special there, which is very popular, where they show their ID card, they get the first beer, soda, or bottled water is free.
In that order.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But it is very, very helpful, and it really has been good. We've gone 4 years, 4 months, and 7 days without an assigned Army, Air Force, Navy, or Marine at Fort Carson that's been killed in a car accident under the alcohol or drugs. So we're leading the country again there, and I thank everybody here and the appreciation that we show to the military, and it's an excellent 1-2 punch. It's good for both.
Thank you. Any other questions, Council?
I had only a question for Deb. Do you do the same thing with Peterson Air Force Base or the Air Force Academy?
I'm unaware of any cable network there, but we have looked at some of their advertising. We have not done anything to date, but that's, and Tom can answer.
Okay, sorry about that. My right-hand arm is Mount Carmel Veteran Service Center. What we've done, I've been involved in that with 30 years. I'm a Vietnam vet, and when we came back, we were not treated very nicely. So what we do is we'll have different, what we call redeployments or deployments, soldiers coming back, Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines, and we'll take care of them as well and do that. So what we'll have is, like, for instance, at Peterson, on the first Saturday of each year of August, each year, we'll have an organizational day or a family picnic. And we'll have between 4,000 and 4,500 people there. So at that time, it helps to do that. We also do the same thing at Cheyenne Mountain, Schriever, Air Force Academy, and Buckley Air Force Base.
Great. Tom, thanks very much. Thanks you for your service. You bet.
And Councilwoman Harvey, to that point, what we do is work with Tom to get information to those events at those stations about Woodland Park. We get that information out there as well. So you can see with military cable ads, we get great bang for our bucks with the amount of people that it's hitting. Next up, I have Linda Jones, Market Strategist with KRDO News Channel 13.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Linda Jones. I am an account executive marketing strategist for KRDO TV as well as KRDO.com. Good evening to Mayor Levy, to Pro Tem Mayor Carr, to President of the Chamber, Debbie Miller, and all of City Council here. I want to give you a snapshot of KRDO and KRDO.com. I know I have very little time. I'll be very brief. And excuse me for reading from my notes, but I do not want to miss any points here. I'm in front of my boss here, Debbie Miller. For those of you who know Debbie, Debbie has been a great partner of the station of KRDO, and Debbie expects results. And when we talk advertising, it's not about taking her money and just hoping something happens and that we get results. Debbie holds me accountable for everything that we do with regards to the Woodland Park area. But I want to give you a little idea, a little snapshot of what KRDO is all about and how we, I feel, have helped the exposure for Woodland Park down in southern Colorado. We are the network, the ABC network affiliate in Southern Colorado. We are proud of the fact that we broadcast 36 plus hours of local news Monday through Sunday. Our primary demographic is adults 35 plus, and our programming when it comes to promoting Woodland Park and the events that we do with the Chamber has always run in our highly rated morning news, early news, as well as late news, Monday through Sunday. I feel it's the strength of our broad reach, which is approximately 408,000 TV households that we reach, has made it such a successful partnership with the station and the Chamber. I feel that this reach has helped solidify our partnership with the Chamber. Our coverage area, our station's coverage area is Teller County, El Paso County, Pueblo County, and many others, but those are the three primary. Our station, has been in partnership with the Chamber since 2009. That's why I feel very comfortable standing up here talking about the partnership that we have with the Chamber, because we've worked with the Chamber so very long. One of the things that I'm very proud of is KRDO was one of the first stations to begin broadcasting the weather in Teller County. Once we jumped on board with that, the others jumped on board with it. So I feel very proud to hang our flag on the fact that we were the first. One of the things that I'm also very proud of is the fact that we have maintained a very valuable marketing tool in this area, and that being the neighborhood weather camera that we have here. We began our partnership and sponsorship with the camera back in 2011. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the camera basically lets our viewers know what is happening weather-wise in Teller County. We have a beautiful view, and it is perched, and it is an HD camera, by the way. It is perched on top of the building that Debbie is located in. Again, Debbie is our eyes and ears for this camera. If it is not working properly, if it goes down, whatever, Debbie is on it. So we are on it. We make sure that that camera is operational every single day, 24/7. But we feel that the camera is one that has also helped brand Woodland Park with our viewers. The viewers have come to rely on this camera. It is a very important tool, and again, it's one designed to bring awareness to our viewers of what is happening up in Woodland Park, basically with regards to the weather. This camera is one that is owned by the Chamber, and when I say owned, we have branded the name of the Chamber to this camera. So I hope that we will continue our partnership with this camera. But we're very proud, and we very much enjoy what this camera brings to our viewers. I want to also say that when the weather turns very wintry and it begins to snow, and we have our first snow, this is the area that we usually send our reporters to first. So when this last snow happened a couple days ago, one of our very important weathercasters, Abby Aconi, made sure that she was up in this area first to let our viewers know exactly what was happening. So again, this area is a very important area for our viewers and for the station. Just to give you a little idea about our reach, we reach as far north as Castle Rock, as far east as Lyman, and of course you know we have a very strong presence in Woodland Springs, El Paso County, as well as Pueblo County. The theme of most of our marketing since I began working with Woodland Park is Woodland Park is closer than you think. For many years, people in the Springs have thought, Woodland Park, that's so far away. So I've always tried to make it a goal to promote the fact that it's a beautiful location. There's lots to do up in Woodland Park, and it's not that far away. So we've really tried to drive that home to the viewers in all of the marketing that we've done for this area. I've always also tried to incorporate, come up and spend your money in Woodland Park. It's a great place. It's a lot of fun. The merchants are fun. There's a lot to do here. And again, it's not far away at all. Some of the events that I've been involved with here is Oktoberfest, the Moose's Loose, the Holiday Home Tour.
Yes.
The Woodland Park Spring and Summer Staycation Campaign, the Business Expo. Now, not all of these are chamber events, but I just want you to know that I am very familiar with this area, and I've been involved in quite a few campaigns for this area. In addition to our television marketing, we have also incorporated Facebook and display ads into our marketing campaigns, only because, as you all know, mobile and digital is the way of the future. So not only is television advertising important, but also now digital marketing is important. So we have a thriving Facebook page. We enjoy doing events and promotions and contests with the Chamber, and we'll continue to do that into the future. So I'm here to say I'm very pleased of our partnership. I look forward to continued years with the partnership, but I really wanted to let you know what KRDO and KRDO.com is all about. thank you for allowing me the time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. I got one question for you, Linda. Why is Colorado Springs closer to Woodland Park than Woodland Park is to Colorado Springs?
No.
We got to work on that.
Yeah, we do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you can see there are handouts that I'll be giving to you afterwards, both from Comcast and KRDO, but we'll wait till after my presentation. I do want to clarify one thing. The weather camera is advertised as the Chamber and the Visitor Center together, and although Oktoberfest has been mentioned twice, those dollars are not seen in this presentation that I'm making tonight, because that is a fundraiser that we do for the Chamber. I think it's also important for you to know, not only do we do TV and radio media, but we do print media. We do an annual ad inside the Visit Colorado Springs, which is the CVB. It reaches 600,000 people through their guidebook. We've worked with and so that goes out as well. So those are the advertising components that we look at. So we talked about data, so very quickly, we're going to hit the data. So in the time frame that I gave you, we're looking at 8,900 visitors that actually came through our doorway. There's no new top 5. That was the same top 5 states that we saw last year. We have about 4,100 phone calls that come in. We have 2 top new ones here. We've never seen Florida or Arizona in the top 5 before. And I do have this whole presentation I'll give to you afterwards as well. But we believe, because of what Colorado Springs does with their 600,000 reach, Florida and Arizona came into that. Top international visitors, you can see it starts at Canada. We had Switzerland, and there is no doubt that Charis Bible College has an impact on this. We had 4.2 million hits to the website, and lodging and attractions are the top pages that people hit upon within our website. And we have a mobile app that we really try to encourage people to use because it has all of the information on there. We're open weekends during the high season. What's high season? Memorial Day through Labor Day. So we are open on Saturday and Sunday during those times. We'll be open for Shop Small Business Saturday in November. We're open the first Saturday in December, which is when everything happens up here for the holiday season. And any other special event, we're open on weekends. Whiteboard, I'm going to talk to you about that later in the presentation, along with lodging binders. We have a myriad of tourism pamphlets and magazines. The Colorado State Magazine is in there. There's all kinds of information about our region in there as well. We've developed our own hiking guide, which includes Dome Rock, Level Gulch, that kind of thing, because we get people who walk in and say, I want a local hike. I don't want to get what I get off the internet. Tell me a local hike. We also get these crazy people from sea level who show up and say, I'm going to hike Pikes Peak today. And we hand them the altitude awareness pamphlet because we don't think they're going to hike Pikes Peak today. We have information about camping. $1,000 worth of time they donated to us. Now I put this in here, and we're going to talk about history because I think you can't understand about the future if you don't know a little bit about the history. So you're going to see 10 years of collection. It says by month. I should have taken the month out, but the top line is actually what the city of Woodland Park has taken in lodging tax dollars, with the exception of 18, and that's kind of extrapolated because we don't have those numbers in yet. In 10 years, you've increased 60% in your lodging tax. Visitor Center total, we're going to see it contract to be able to operate, and that's gone up 18%. And I've already given away the big surprise tonight, which is the return on investment, which is the last line total, and this year you're going to see it's about a $7.83 return on investment. Why history? Again, I think it's important that you know that when I arrived here 13 years ago, or actually 12 years ago, There was no marketing being done about the community, no commercials, no radio, no TV. And so actually the young lady that helped us develop our first commercials is in the audience tonight. She didn't know I was going to point her out, but Linda Murray's with us tonight. She created our first 3 commercials, Shopping, Dining, and Staying Here. And we created 3 radio commercials as well. As you heard from the 3 speakers tonight, we've been strategic about how we spend those dollars. We do it towards special events. We do it NFL. We do that sort of thing. We're very targeted. We created our base camp brochure that's distributed out to all 10 official visitor centers in Colorado. We continually, I think we've 3 times over the last 12 years, we've updated that. Has no advertising on that brochure, but it's in every state visitor center as you're coming into this state. The whiteboard. I think it's important to talk about this because starting Memorial Day, we put a whiteboard up. We contact every lodging on Tuesday and say, what do you have available for this coming weekend? They let us know everything from rooms, handicap rooms, pet-friendly rooms, what's available. Heads on beds. That's where the lodging tax comes in. 2009, we created the lodging binders. You know, I had this misnomer when I moved here that because it's a small town, everybody knew everybody, and guess what? That's not true. So you're going to hear it in a little bit about our fan tours, but we created the lodging binders so that our lodging facilities would know about attractions and events and everything going on. 2010, we created the special events poster. We talked about this at the last workshop. To get on that poster, you have to have an event that's been in business for either 5 years or draws 5,000 people to your event. So it's kind of those signature events that we talked about. So why not move forward and combine that poster into a rack card? We did that in 2010 or 2012, and we distribute those out locally and throughout Colorado Springs. We have created several different renditions of the off-highway vehicle maps. In fact, Bill Alsbach, a former city employee, helped us create our first. Great Outdoors Colorado is working with us, and we have those available. Teller County is the top area for off-highway vehicles, so we have that available inside the Cultural Center, inside our office, as well as the website. We've created local trails that we talked about. In fact, we have the Main Street map that they've created, and we distribute that within the visitor center as well. We have a local map. Believe it or not, even with cell phones and Google Maps nowadays, people want a hard copy map. So we have our maps that have Woodland Park on one side, Teller County on the other. In 2010, now the fan tour, I think that's something important to talk about. We put, again, thinking that everybody knew everybody, and they didn't, we put them on a school bus, and we took them out to visit all the different lodging facilities, attractions, businesses, restaurants, and it was pretty cool to listen to the different lodging owners go, what do you charge in the summer? Well, what do you charge in the wintertime? And so they're sitting there kind of comparing, and really buses. And why did we do that? Because we took them out to the lodging facilities so they could see the rooms, meet the owners, meet the staff. Those are the people booking for all the special events that happen out there. In fact, I just mentioned to you a couple of workshops ago, this year alone, Karis will bring in over 12,000 visitors with their special events. So it's important that those people know what's going on. 2011, we created the community calendar. Everybody here can put anything on it as long as it's not little Johnny's birthday or Aunt Sally's anniversary. And in 2018, Colorado Springs, and we have, the city has the calendar on their website. Any business can put it on their website. 2018, Colorado Springs CVB said we want it on ours. We send people up there all the time. We want them to know what to do. So it's on theirs. 2016, we had to update those commercials because it was getting really old to see my husband in a hot tub with somebody else. So public, we promote them through our Southern Colorado business partnerships, north to Castle Rock, south to Denver, and certainly within Colorado Springs. But there's two more points that I'm going to make before we go on to the return on investment. Waldo Canyon fire happened, and I've got to tell you, I've never lived through anything like this in my life. Not understanding the effect it would have on us, 8 days of a highway closure, businesses crying, help me, how are we going to get people here? And we worked to get people into this lodging, bringing people in the back way, and if you go back and look at your numbers, you'll see lodging tax continue to go up those 2 years. But one of the most, I guess, items that I'm the most proud of that we've accomplished is working with CDOT when the Highway 24 closures. Literally, a gray cloud would be up there, and they'd close the highway. And businesses were crying throughout Teller County. We brought CDOT to the table along with the tourism industry, along with our businesses, and said, we've got to fix it. What do we do? So now you see gates and you see cameras as you travel along Highway 24. And I got to tell you, I got a call today. What happened? The pass is closed. And I'm thinking, I didn't get a nixle. Pass isn't closed. What did I do? I got on our cameras. It's because of the mitigation in the curvy part of the pass, and traffic was backed up and people were convinced the pass was closed. But it's because of our efforts of collaboration that we were able to do that. So, and it's you can see it in your numbers. Return on investment. So the visitor center contract, for the time that we talked about, we received $41,850. The operation cost $47,141, and I'll talk about those costs here in a second. Visitor center tax impact, $327,759. How did we get there? I think, again, having that history up there, but understanding Dean Runyon, he is the national tourism guru that you go to when you're looking to figure out how you get your numbers. So you're going to see that with Dean Runyon's 2017 tourism report, he says you should look at 60% of lodging tax dollars coming into your community, 10% of sales tax dollars, and 2% of property tax. Our formula isn't that way. Our formula is 50% for lodging tax, 4% for sales tax, and 1/10%. And Councilwoman Case, thank you for the workshop and pointing out to me that those were existing homes and we needed to readjust those numbers. So I appreciate you doing that.
You're welcome.
So here's the operation cost. Advertising costs that you heard about tonight, $25,000. Tourism industry cost. This year, we had to take every single one of those lodging binders, 9 years of usage, and they were pretty tattered, and we had to replace every single one. So the binder cost is in there along with our tourism dues to tourism organizations, so we stay on top of what's going on. Those 2,400 hours that the volunteers gave us, we gave a volunteer recognition dinner at the end of summer at about 2,300. Our administrative costs, there's cost to those copies, those in-house maps that we do, postage that we send out, equipment that we use. We have an 800 number that we put in our brochure so people can call us when they're coming into the state, and some of the technology cost. Operations cost. About $10,900 in salaries, and you would say, well, what does that include? The staff are the ones who create the graphic developments. We're the ones who work with the TV stations to buy the ads, to do all of that. We are the ones updating the website, working on that, working on the lodging binders, and then in high season, there's 3 of us out there working that visitor center, working with people as they come through the door. So about $5,200 the chamber puts toward the operations. So again, return on investment, $7.83. But I wanted to have a little fun with this. So I took Dean Runyon's numbers and said, what would it be if I used his calculation? It would be $741,817 impact to the city, and it would be a ROI of $17.73. We were conservative. We didn't use the national numbers. We used the numbers that we believe we have the actual effect on. I'll end it, say thank you, and open up for any questions.
Thank you very much. Council.
Thank you. Would you possibly send this presentation?
I have it all here.
Oh,
I just didn't. My speech teacher told me never to hand out PowerPoint presentations during or before my PowerPoint because I wouldn't have your attention. So everything here from Comcast, myself, and KRDO is here for you to have.
Great. Deb, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. We'll move on. Agenda item number 4. We have no additions, deletions, or corrections. So we move on to the consent calendar. And Sally, you want to start?
Thank you, Mayor Levy. I just wanted to make a few comments about the intergovernmental agreement that the city has enjoyed with the Pikes Peak Regional Building Department for the past 5 years. It's amazing that it's already been 5 years with our building services being provided by Regional Building Department. And wanted to share with you that this is no cost to the city. In fact, we actually have a bonus with this relationship in that we are able to keep about $17,000 a year of the fees to pay for a half-time permit technician, and that is Dory Slaughter, who works for us in the office and assists with the building services. Building services are funded through the fees that are collected for plan review and building permits. And actually, the fees for residential projects are lower than Teller County. The commercial fees are about the same, and it is a very good deal for our community. Why 8 years for the contract this year? They weren't willing to go 10, so we compromised at 8, and they were very comfortable going longer than 5, so 8 years seemed appropriate. And this provides certainty and consistency into the future for our customers, whether it's a resident doing a deck or a new home, or it's a contractor building a large project. The regulations that are currently being applied for the building industry is the 2017 PPRBD codes. You'll recall that we just adopted those along with the 2015 international codes. There is a termination clause that either party can terminate the contract in 90 days with written notice. So if there is an issue for performance or we would like to do something different, there is that termination clause. We don't foresee any issues. We've had excellent professional service and would like to continue for the next 8 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Council, any questions?
Are we on the consent calendar?
We are.
I'd just like to bring to the attention on the memorandum through Darren from Mike Farina on monthly report for mayor and council expenses, that the council expense is $2,116 over budget. I would suggest that that line item be frozen and no more spending out of it. Thank you.
I would, Mr. Mayor, I would agree with Councilwoman Case on that. I just don't know if you need consensus or a vote.
Consensus would be fine. And I'll add it to the consent calendar as with approval.
Thank you.
That sounds good. Council, do we have consensus?
Well, what are we limiting ourselves by doing that? So no more food, no more anything.
Correct.
I could make chili for the next executive session.
I'll feed myself, thank you.
Val?
If that's all we're doing is food, I'm worried that there's other things in there.
I mean, if the council submits any expenses for like ink cartridges or paper or anything like that, yes. Small mileage, but we don't usually get reimbursements for that. We're over on it not only because it's because of CML as well. If you'll recall, We have the money just in a different line item. It came out of my budget for one person to go to CML, but it came out of council expense. So there's just some, that's where it's from, is the going to CML and a little bit of food.
Okay, thank you, Suzanne. Sounds like we have consensus. Kelly, thank you.
You're welcome.
Need a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Mayor, can I just review the consent calendar?
Please.
Thank you. On tonight's consent calendar, we have two sets of minutes, the minutes from the October 4th council meeting, the minutes from the October 18th council meeting. And then we also have, as Councilwoman Case brought to our attention, we have the September 2018 Statement of Expenditures for the consent calendar with the suggestion of the council freezing the council line item that is currently over budget. And then we also have the approval of the IGA between the City of the Woodland Park and Pikes Peak Regional Department.
Thank you, Suzanne. Council, any other questions?
I'll move to approve the consent calendar as presented by the city clerk.
Thank you. And we have a second. Suzanne?
Case?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Labar?
Yes.
Levy?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much. I have a number of people signed up for public comment tonight. I know most of them are relative to our public hearing on the dog park. And so if I miss you, I'm not trying to. I'm going to go down the list and take public comment now on everything else except for the dog park. So there's a couple that didn't indicate what agenda item. I'm going to start with Lisa Lima. Is that right? Lima?
Yeah, Lima.
And you want to chat about the dog park or not? Yeah. Okay, then we'll wait. Patricia Stinner.
Good evening, Council. Mayor Levy. Didn't expect a big crowd tonight, and I don't like to do public speaking, so I'm going to make it real quick. I apologize for a letter that I wrote to you. I apologize to you, and I apologize to Bianca. And I'm going to leave it at that, because I just really don't like to be in public speaking. Please accept my apology.
Thank you.
We do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Well, we all know this. It's a lot harder to come up and apologize than to write that letter. So a lot of respect for Patricia and Michael and everything they do for our community. And they've always brought great advice to me. And so we appreciate everybody. And you know, for me, that's what our community is all about, what you just saw. So really appreciate it, and we'll move forward. Scott Pavanka, I'm sorry if I'm mispelling that, mispronouncing. Thank you.
Was it wrong for me to say thank you? Okay, it's really loud.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I'm Scott Pavanka at 1373 Masters Drive. I wanted to chat with you folks tonight just for a minute about the deer situation. The September 26th issue of the Pikes Peak Courier had a couple of articles in it that were germane. One quoted the mayor a couple of times, and one conveyed information from Tim Cronin from the district. He's the district manager for Colorado Parks and Wildlife. The mayor was quoted as saying that I can say for sure that there will be nothing done this year relative to controlling the deer population. And then outside of the quote, you suggested that no action would be taken until September of 2019. And then you were also quoted as saying, rest assured we are going to address it in the safest possible way that we can. I would submit that those quotes are in conflict with one another. because the safest thing is not to delay for a year before taking action. There's also reference in the article about the council's consideration of increasing the fine for feeding the deer. I think we're going to talk about that tonight a little bit. So at this point, I'd like to confess that me and my family sometimes feed the deer. However, it's not voluntary on our part. The deer jump over the fence. They eat our strawberries or rhubarb or lilacs or lilies. Hundreds of dollars in damage to our landscaping this year. Plus, just as an extra bonus, the deer come up on our front porch and eat all our jack-o'-lanterns and pumpkins, but they do leave the stems out in the driveway. We had an interesting experience a couple weeks ago at my house. My wife came downstairs and there were 3 large buck deer right up looking in the glass in the basement, and my wife kind of wondered how far they would come in and what would happen if my young children came running around the corner of the house and perhaps scared the deer that are rutting right now, and they tend to do some kind of strange things. As I drive around town, I see deer carcasses on a near daily basis. Knowing that not every vehicle versus deer accident results in a carcass, I don't think it's too hard to extrapolate that there are auto versus deer accidents on a near daily basis. Information provided in the article from Mr. Cronin, you can extrapolate and estimate that causes about $1.5 million in property damage between now and the time you propose to take it up in September of next year. That figure does not include the loss of my rhubarb. And Mr. Mayor, I'm sure you know it's very difficult to put a price on good rhubarb pie. Listen, folks, I know this is a hard issue to deal with, but I believe that it is the kind of issue that the citizenry expects the council and city government to deal with. However, trying to be a good citizen, I don't want to just come up and complain and not offer any suggestions or anything. Mr. Cronin offered several suggestions, but really only one of which was even close to being cost effective. I realize that there are a lot of people in town that don't want to kill the deer, but the alternative being overpopulation, transmission of chronic wasting disease, so on and so forth, is, I think, a worse option than that. So my suggestion would be that you don't need to appoint a committee or anything. Somebody move to resolve this issue, have a little debate about it, perhaps at the next meeting, and then hold a hunt, sell permits. Mr. Cronin has experience in that area, and he could help you guys to manage it and get it done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just make a brief comment after you take your seat, Mr. Pavanka. This is not something that we're putting off till next September to start with. We're very well aware safety is number one. And to start and try to go out into the community and just issue permits to people that want to help us protect our community by killing deer is not the way. None of us here are experts on these controlled deer hunts, as you can imagine, nor are you, nor anybody in this room. However, the Department of Wildlife is, and until further notice, we're going to take their recommendations on how we move forward, because they're very well aware that first and foremost, our concern is safety. And I know what you're saying. We all experience, the deer eating our rhubarb. You're not the only one. And we're very well aware. We will continue to move forward. And when the time comes, I'll guarantee you this, we're going to do it right. And it's going to be a safe hunt. And we're going to do what's best for everybody in our community. So I'm glad you came forward. You'll have, as will everybody else, ample opportunity to weigh in, because we'll have future meetings after the first of the year, and we want to do this thing right. I always use probably a bad example, but the example I use is at the Academy. For some of you that were here 20, 25, 30 years ago, they had a controlled hunt out there, I think in the mid-'80s or so, and here's what I remember. 2 ladies that dressed up as deer and went out onto the Air Force Academy. The point is, there's a lot of pros, there's a lot of cons. We have to make sure that we approach it, in a safe manner and just do the right thing for our community. So we are doing that. Rest assured. Those of you that were at the meeting, it was amazing. We had, about 100, Carol? You can speak to that a little bit better than I did. I can, because I wasn't there.
Thank you. I was actually going to ask Darren to comment on the fact that the September date was discussed because if there is, in fact, a controlled hunt of some type, wanted to wait to the end of the season when yearlings would be able to take care of themselves. Having a controlled hunt before that date was not practical. And then there is also going to be another survey of the deer population in February, I believe.
That's
Is that correct,
correct.
Darren? Is that what you remember?
I also remember that, the Department of Wildlife also, they're busy right now, and they would be helping us actually put on the control hunt. They couldn't assist us this year as well. That was part of the decision-making process.
So in the steps that the council can take, one of those is an ordinance that would increase the fine for feeding wildlife. And I agree with you. My yard is the salad bar for mule deers on Majestic Parkway, by the way. So this is just an attempt and one of the few actions that we can take as a council, and we're starting with that tonight.
Thanks, Carol.
I would suggest, let's slow down. Watch for them. In the meantime, we have a job to do as well. And, we're living in their habitat, and they are protected, and they're well fed. They eat my salad bar too. But let's slow down. I live on Evergreen Heights Drive, and people drive as if that were Highway 67. Speed limit's 25 miles an hour. We have lots of deer on that road that cross morning and night. And slowing down will make a big difference in those carcasses on the road. So that message is to everyone that's listening.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And thank you for coming forward. It's an issue that, trust me, we're all very concerned with, as you know. I've never seen a public meeting. We called it a couple weeks before we had 100 people there. So there's concern, and we're working our way through it. Okay, that said, I don't have anybody else on this that signed up to speak under public comment other than the dog park and maybe 1 or 2 other. I see yours, Gail. We'll get yours if you want to wait until agenda item number 10, which is probably the appropriate place for it. So that said, we will move on. We have no unfinished business tonight. And Mr. Pavanka, you'll be happy to know that we're going to move on to ordinances on initial posting. And Sally Riley.
Thank you very much. Yes, ordinance number 1338 is the first step to address the deer population in our community, and they are being well fed by people who are doing it intentionally. And so this is an ordinance that provides clear regulations that prohibit the feeding of wildlife with a stiff fine and summons into municipal court. The purpose is to add this to our municipal regulations. The Division of Wildlife will be here for the public hearing to be able to speak to the issue in greater detail on November 15th.
Shall, you want to talk about the increase in the fines?
The proposal is for the first fine, first offense to receive $350 fine. The second fine would be $450, and the third occurrence would be $550 and up to $1,000. And this was recommended by the judge and prosecutor.
Counsel.
What is the current fine now, or is there one?
There is not one. So, however, the Division of Wildlife does have a system, and their fine is only $75.
And Commander, talk a little bit about how, the issues for you all in enforcing those kinds of
Right now, I've talked with Tim from Division of Wildlife, and he says that there are some people that actually tape a check to their front door because they know what the fine is, and they're willing to pay the $75 just to go ahead and continue feeding the deer. And Tim and I used to live a street apart, and there was a woman who lived in between us, and the deer used to stick their head in her garage to eat the food if she wasn't there to feed them. And the comment was about the deer carcasses. We do have quite a few deer versus vehicle accidents, and at one point we were putting down a lot of deer because they were hit, and the humane thing to do was for us to shoot them. But I think if you notice this week, it's hunting season now, and even more in town than usual.
They know where it's safe.
Well, I almost got one this morning as I was turning into the police department. It stepped in front of me, so it's a constant thing, a constant issue that we've been dealing with for years.
Thank you. Val?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just to be clear, it's dangerous animals, large wild animals, not your pets you're feeding outside, your dog, your cat, things like that. I had somebody ask that, so I just wanted to clarify.
Thank you.
We're birds. Feed the birds.
Council, we're on initial posting. If there are no other questions, I'll ask for a motion to consider 1338 and set the public hearing for November 15th.
So moved.
Second.
And a second. Thank you. Suzanne?
Harvey?
Yes.
Labar? Yes. Levy?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Case?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to agenda item number 9 and public hearings. And before we start, I'll read this quick announcement. Council members use electronic devices to access the materials relevant to the public hearing before us. Be assured that it is a common practice of this City Council that these devices are not being used for texting, emailing, or other communications during the public hearings. And we move on to agenda item 9A, and Chrissy's not here, so you going to take that, Suzanne?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Levy and Council. This evening, we have a transfer of a liquor license that most of you would know as the former Western Convenience Store. They are transferring their liquor license and become to Alta now. And so they've applied for their liquor license. They're located at 20421 East US Highway 24. They have applied for their liquor license. They have the current sales tax license, and they're eligible for this liquor license. Let's see here. The owner is, I hope I'm saying this correct. I don't know how to say the name. Pester, pardon me. I didn't get that from Chrissy before she left. Owner is Pester Marketing Company, and I guess you must be Dennis? Okay. The owner, Dennis Dursky, is here, and Mr. James Pickett, that's okay, is here, and they're in attendance if you have any questions. The possession of their property is documented by a lease that is good through March 12th of 2038. The application was submitted to the clerk's office on May 11th. The subject property was posted on October 10th and advertised in the Courier edition. Character of the applicant is not an issue for this hearing, and operation of this business is in compliance with local zoning, building, and fire regulations. All applicable fees have been paid, and staff would recommend the approval of this transfer of liquor license. Yes, ma'am.
Is this the Western Convenience location?
Yes.
Thank you.
And the owners, if you'd like to, if you want to come up and introduce yourselves.
Hello, my name is Dennis Dirksey. I live at 1239 West Lone Cowboy Drive in Pueblo West, Colorado. And I'm the Vice President of Operations, Eastern Marketing.
We appreciate you being here. It sounds like you got a great background. I know you got a great business, and you can add what you like, but see this council is all smiling.
I've been here before. So.
You have been here before.
I was going to say, I recognize you. You were here recently for another license.
Yeah,
were
it was
you
for
not?
our other store here.
One
That's
up
what I
part,
thought.
yeah.
Thank you.
Any questions? How about that? We got to talk about dogs, you know, so.
Some things are more important.
We appreciate you being here.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Council, motion to approve liquor license?
It is a public hearing.
I'm sorry. I didn't have anybody else signed up, but if anybody would like to talk on 9A, this is your opportunity. Transfer the liquor license at the Western Convenience. Okay, if not,
I'll move to approve.
thank you.
Second.
There you go, Suzanne.
LeVar? Yes. Levy?
Yes?
Carr?
Yes.
Case?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to make this clear because it not only is at 8:30, but we've got a possible long hearing in front of us. Everyone's going to have an opportunity to come forward and speak on this issue at some point when we have all the information in. This is what I'm going to ask for, and I'm not going to allow. I'm not going to allow you to come up and say the same thing over and over and over and over again. So if you have new information, trust me, this council wants to hear it. The staff wants to hear it. We're trying to make the best possible decision we can. But to be here for an hour and talking about the same thing over and over and over again, we're just not going to allow. So when you come up, you're probably going to have in the neighborhood of 2 minutes. I don't think I'm going to let anybody go longer than that unless they continue to bring new information. So we will start this with the presenter, and I'm happy to announce that Bianca Bryant is back with us tonight, I believe. Cindy?
Good evening, Mayor Levy and council members. If you recall, back on September 6th, Ms. Bianca Bryant presented the proposed Golden Meadows Dog Park project located on Lot 8, Woodland Park Plaza, which is known as Fountain Creek Greenway, north of Aspen Garden Way and east of Woodland Avenue or County Road 21. At this meeting, council asked for a public hearing. Per the public hearing notification procedure, public hearing letters were mailed to surrounding property owners. The proposed park property was posted, and the public hearing notice was published in the Pikes Peak Courier. Bianca is here tonight with a short presentation answering some of the questions that you posed to her on September 6th. So Bianca, if you could join me up here.
You got it. This one?
Bianca, if you'll remember, please speak in the microphone as loudly as you can. You might pull it down a little bit. And just start with your name and address, please.
My name is Bianca Bryant, and at the City Council meeting I gave you my address in Divide, Colorado, but I also have an address in Woodland Park, Colorado. That's 570 Pembroke Drive. I wanted to start by thanking you all for letting me speak tonight and present my project for you guys. and answer some of the questions addressed on the September 6th City Council meeting. This project really means a lot to me because I love dogs, and I know that a lot of people in this community love dogs just as much as I do. And my objective is to partner with the city to secure Fountain Creek Greenway property as a dog park. I'm not going to go as in-depth as I did in the City Council meeting. I'll just be briefing on some of the issues that you guys have questions about. So for those people that don't know about my project, I'm doing this as a Gold Award project for Girl Scouts, which means that I have to help my community in a permanent way, and with the help of many community members, and you guys, of course. So I'm going to brief over some of the benefits that I talked about in the City Council meeting. One, a dog park can raise property values. Dog parks are an necessity. They can foster a safer and cleaner use for land. There's a neighborhood watch environment. There's a dedicated greenway space / park, and it features a sought after in the communities everywhere. It's a place for people to network, socialize, and relax. Users can share business and service information of the community. People can socialize across the spectrum of all demographics and ages. Like I said, people can relax and enjoy this activity. People can sit and watch the dogs play. Dog parks are part of our community, and 44% of American households own a dog. Some trends supporting building a dog park. Dog ownership went up 29% nationally in the last 10 years. 44% of households own a dog, like I said. There's 1.7 dogs per household, which would mean with the population of Teller County that 5,663 dogs, oh, not Teller County, sorry, Woodland Park, there's 5,663 dogs. The number of dog parks went up 20% in the last 5 years, and there's approximately 1,500 dog parks in the U.S., and it's the fastest growing segment of City Parks U.S., which is really, really big. So here are some questions that the City Council, at the City Council presentation were brought up. Many people ask about other locations I've looked at for the dog park, the maintenance cost, environmental impact of the dog park, additional cost of supplies, erosion, migration, traffic, and noise. So like the location standards that I was looking for while looking for a location for this dog park is a place away from highways, a flat ground, there's area for a parking, and it's a large enough land to separate small dogs and large dogs. And I did a poll for the location on the Facebook community page of where people would like a dog park to be, Florissant, Divide, or Woodland Park. 5% said Florissant, 22% said Divide, and 73% said Woodland Park. So the first location I looked at was a land behind St. David's Church property. It's 0.75 acres. The pros of this were there is a parking area. It's a large amount of land. It's convenient and has views of Pikes Peak. The cons, though, were it is a sloped area. There were no trees. You can't walk to it. There's houses along the property, and there's stickers and weeds all around the land. Another area that I looked at was Meadowood Sports Complex, which is 0.5 acres. The pros to this is there's already parking spaces. It draws people to the surrounding attractions and parks over there. And there's trails surrounding the park. The cons, though, are there very few trees for shade. It's an uneven ground which we would have to flatten. And it's a small area which would be hard to separate small dogs and large dogs. Now this is the land that I am proposing for the dog park, Fountain Creek Greenway property, which is 0.75 acres. It's adjacent to the American Discovery Trail and it's located behind Safeway. Why it's a prime spot? 1, it's close to town, it's in walking distance. It has shade from the trees. It's close to the apartments and surrounding neighborhoods. It's by a shopping center, which is good for businesses and tourists. It's an area, there's area to create a parking lot, and it's on the American Discovery Trail. So I've had some copies of the property itself, but here's an overview. The blue area surrounding here, this is the total Fountain Creek Greenway property, while I will only be using 0.73 acres of it. Oh, and this is Safeway right here. And there's an apartment complex right here, if that helps anyone. So here is the total area and the feet of fencing that I'm looking at. So we would have the double latch doors to make sure that the dogs are safely coming in and out of the dog park, and 2 vehicle gates for maintenance. And here's the proposed parking space along the Aspen Garden Way Trail, and here's Safeway right here, and the South Woodland Avenue right here. This is no longer gravel, it is milling. Oh, and it fits about 15 to 19 parking spaces, which is a pretty decent amount for the size that we've looked at compared to other dog parks. One big thing that I like about this area is that there's a walking path that you can get to from across the highway and from town, which I will have some other people addressing who specialize in that. But you can walk all the way from Woodland Park over under the highway, across the footpath, and onto the American Discovery Trail, which is adjacent, like I said, to the dog park. So the maintenance. The only maintenance that's really going to be big is the trash removal every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday by the parks, which will cost about $24 per week. And I talked to the Divide Slash company, and they offered us free continuous mulch. And other volunteers willing to help with the maintenance are Keep Woodland Park Beautiful, Friends of Golden Meadows, and Focus on the Forest. The environmental impact. It'll be 15 feet away from the creek for erosion and runoff purposes. There's more than 150 feet away from any of the houses, so there's no issues with well water. There's tree guards for the health of the trees, and it's a flat land, which causes less erosion. And I talked to Kyle Melvin, who is the El Paso Parks and Rec Director. So he's the Parks and Rec Director of Bear Creek Dog Park, and that's one thing that he recommended for me to do is make sure you have a flat land, because that's the only issue that they really have with their dog park is their dog park is at a slant, so they have a little bit of erosion issues. The costs. So I am going to be raising money for all of the cost and supplies, and including labor. So the donated supplies that I have so far are people signed off to say that they will help me donate benches, wood chips, and doggy bag stations. Other donated labor that people have said they will do is contractor, installing and transporting fencing, installing and transporting the wood chips, maintenance, and installing the doggy bag stations, which means I would have to do money-raising activities to raise the remaining cost of fencing and gates, signs, bear-proof trash cans, small trash cans, and the milling, which would be transportation and installing that. So really, the overall cost that I am saving the city would be about $58,000. The traffic. So on the corner of Aspen Garden Way and South Woodland Avenue, there is 1,721 cars that pass through daily average, which is about we're saying averaging about 50 cars per day, which would be multiplied by 2 for the cars coming into the dog park and leaving, which would have 1,821 cars daily passing that corner, which means the traffic would only increase by 5% with this dog park. The noise. So like I said, it's going to be open from dusk to dawn for the surrounding residents. It's more than 150 feet away from the surrounding properties, so you won't really be able to hear dogs barking anyways. And most dogs, if they're happy, most dogs won't be barking anyways. Most dogs bark because they are bored or something like that. And this property is already being used for dogs being walked already on the Great American Discovery Trail. And it's open and there's plenty of dogs running there already in the property. And that's it. If you guys don't mind, I'd like to call up a few people to speak on behalf of my presentation, addressing some of the key points.
Please do.
Sean, do you mind speaking first?
And for the speakers, again, I'm going to limit it to no more than a couple minutes, and
I'll make it quick.
I appreciate it.
I know it's getting late. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Sean Nielsen with Focus on the Forest. I live at 28132 Highway 67. A lot of people don't understand that we're surrounded by National Forest, and National Forest has leash laws. As we know, the reasons behind that would be the harassment of wildlife, the transportation of noxious weeds, and those kind of things. A lot of people don't understand that there is a leash law. You're not allowed to just have free-roaming dogs in National Forest, which is the reason why I think having a dog park in town would let people accomplish that without having to break the law. And we talked with Forest Service about that. Most tourists are unaware of it as well, so they are taking their dogs out in the National Forest. I think a lot of people live in these rural areas around town and they have plenty of room, but the people that live in town, that's their only option to let their dogs go off leash is in National Forest, and we just can't. We're trying to avoid that from happening. And we're a very community-oriented organization, and I think it'd be a pretty good fit for the community. Like Bianca said, that it's getting to be very popular, and I think it's a pretty good spot for it. And I just wanted to comment on the presentation. It's fantastic. So,
thank you very much.
You guys have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
I think we'll all agree with that last statement. Great presentation.
My next person I'd like to come up here is Joe Wyka.
Good evening. I'm Joe Wyka. I live in Florissant. I am Fort Carson's engineer in real life, post engineer. I'm one of the veterans who lives in Teller County, Army veteran. So how did I get involved? I saw social media, a Girl Scout who was looking for some help, some technical help. My wife's a former Girl Scout, my daughter's a Girl Scout, so I had a soft heart, so I said, I will help. So I just wanted to share, we built a dog park at Fort Carson, very similar, sited in a very similar fashion, near a creek, across the road from housing. It's incredibly popular and among the residents there, and it costs very little for us to maintain. We get very few maintenance calls on that type of thing. Chain link in Colorado, I'm a civil engineer. It's about the easiest thing to maintain, and I think it's a good location. I have some experience in local government back in Ohio, so I'm familiar with some of what your jobs are, and I appreciate what you do. And I appreciate that it's a hard decision with a lot of people that have a stake. And my recommendation would be try to find a spot in the city of Woodland Park for this dog park. And if it's the one suggested, I think there's a lot of virtue to that, but there might be some other ones too. But at the end, I hope you can come away with a dog park. I think it's a great project, so I appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question for the
please.
speaker. What would you estimate the cost of operation and maintenance of the dog park at Fort Carson is on a yearly basis?
Well, you're putting me on the spot here, and I guess I volunteered to do that, but if I had to pick a number, it would be probably under several $1,000s. We maintain the garbage. Occasionally, there might be some damage to the fence. That's pretty rare. You know, you might have a tree fall on a fence. You have to repair it. We do have some amenities in our dog park, like little ramps and that kind of thing. And we might do some maintenance too. But it's a few $1,000s if I had to pick a number.
What was the startup cost?
Gosh, we built that 6 or 8 years ago, so I hate to go on record as saying that. But I think it's in line with the pricing that Bianca was quoting. I know she went to some local contractor and got a fencing contractor to give her some numbers. And it's pretty much in line. It's chain link fence. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. You have more, Bianca?
Yes, I do. Sorry. Lisa, would you like to speak next?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lisa Lima. I live in Divide. I am also the owner of My Life Unleashed Counseling and Animal Assisted Therapy, which is basically a human therapy practice where animals are used throughout the therapeutic process. I also have a 15-year background in canine training and behavior modification. And I wanted to speak on part of some of the common behavior concerns that may be brought up during the process. One of them being barking throughout the dog park, especially for neighbors that live nearby. Dogs tend to bark for a variety of reasons. One of those, the incessant barking that tends to get annoying, the arf, 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 that kind of barking is typically brought out when dogs need an outlet. They have excess energy, they may be bored, but that's typically when that barking is brought out. If you drive through a dog park, you will typically hear very little to no barking at all. And that's because dogs are running freely, they're playing with each other, they're having fun. They don't have that tension as many dogs do when they're on leash and they see another dog and they want to bark, bark, bark to play. They're already out and they're roaming around. It also brings out a very nice outlet in them, and so it's a very positive socialization opportunity for dogs. Especially for those dogs who have a lot of energy, who can't unleash their energy in other ways. So Fido next door, who tends to bark a lot throughout the day, if they are able to go out to the dog park, take a run, well, guess what? Throughout the rest of the day, Fido will probably not bark very much at all. And to the other point, it's not just a great socialization opportunity for dogs, but it also is for humans as well, for us. We tend to meet people at dog parks. We tend to talk and make friends. I've lived in this community for about 3 to 4 months now, and I can tell you that the more people I get to know, the more involved I feel in my community and the more part of it I feel.
Great. Thank you very much.
A few more, sorry.
I'll give you 2 more.
Okay, that's the perfect amount.
Good.
Pat, would you like to speak next?
Can I cross you off the list, Pat?
Yes, you can. I wasn't sure. I didn't know if I couldn't speak unless I was on the list. My name is Pat Hislop. I live at 540 Sunny Glen Court in lovely Woodland Park, Colorado. And I'm here first as two people, I guess. One is representative, Keep Woodland Park Beautiful, and another just as a member of this community. Bianca did come and present it, Keep Woodland Park Beautiful, and I do have the support of the committee to be here. The reason we support it is for two reasons. First of all is the relief for Memorial Park. There are a lot of dogs and dog walkers in our town, and a lot of them are walking in Memorial Park, and there are a lot of feces building up there. By having another place for people to take their dogs, we're hoping to give some relief from Memorial Park. So that's one. Two, we're looking forward to this opportunity to encourage pet owners to pick up after their pets. We see that we would have a captive audience with people there with their pets, and what we can do is, in a positive way, congratulate and encourage the people that already do pick up after their dogs, but then also to try and then encourage other people to do it as well. So those are the two reasons we are supporting it. Now, as a community member, I was a member of the Planning Commission for 1 year, and I did get the opportunity to go to the 2016 Planning Conference in Colorado Springs. I was really excited because one of the themes was planning your community for health. Just 30 minutes of exercise a day can make a difference in the health of anybody. And one of the things that they talked about, there was a man, Mark Fenton, he's a National Public Health Planning and Transportation Consultant. He talked about the 4 elements of walkability in your town or city. I'm not going to use the first one, that's not the important one. The next one is network of facilities, which is your sidewalks, your bike lanes, that kind of thing, trails. And then rewards by design. What they found was if people have a place to walk to, they're more likely to walk. So he said, like, if there's a bench to walk toward, maybe you get to see a beautiful view. If the park to walk toward, or maybe a place to have coffee with the friends. But also a dog park would be a great place to walk to. Also, it's about access and safety. Of course, you need to have a safe place to walk. Well, today I had my husband drop me off behind Safeway, and I walked from there all the way to Highway 24. It took me about 30 minutes. And it was a trail and sidewalks the entire way. A nice, safe place to walk. Every day, give your dogs a chance to get some extra fun and exercise, and you as well. So that's why I want to support this dog park. I also, I think it's important we have an aging population in our town, and many of them can't take their dogs on nice long walks. These dogs are important to these older people. It gives them that companionship they need and a sense of safety many times. And so this is also a great thing for them, that they'll have a place to go and let their dogs have that fun and exercise that they need. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. Thanks very much.
My last speaker would be Christopher Hall.
Good evening, everyone. Christopher Hall, Army vet, and former intern at Woodland Park Planning Department. I did a bunch of research. Colorado Springs.
Thanks, Chris.
Did a bunch of research for this project to help facilitate the presentation. I'm going to speak today on, we'll do some science talk. So I'm going to talk about mitigation of urine and the feces and the behavior of dogs, and how that can be kind of a problem that would be eliminated in terms of a worry. First of all, feces, as was mentioned, in a dog park environment, there's a collective pressure for you to pick up your feces of your dog. There's signs posted, and it's almost like a shame thing if you don't pick it up. So I've been to a lot of dog parks. I went to the Fort Carson one when I was active duty. I went all over town and measured them, looked at all sorts of parameters for these dog parks, and they're relatively clean. The feces is really not an issue. Brings me to the urine. So urine. Dogs tend to urinate when they have to urinate. However, in a dog park, they're marking is really what they're doing. So there's a lot less urine that is put into the ground. Another behavior of dogs is that they urinate or mark on vertical structures, telephone poles, you name it. I've seen them walk 5 dogs in a row and urinate on a boulder. So it's a concentrated area where that urine is collected. The free wood chip, that's what you would put around these structures, the vertical structures. It collects the urine. Brings me to my last point. about the science of urine and how to neutralize that urine, how to mitigate that effect on erosion and the environment. So urine is a base, right? It's alkalinic. What neutralizes? Acid. Pine is naturally an acidic type of material. So pine mulch, being acidic, when the dogs urinate on that pine mulch, it is a natural cycle of the natural nitrogen cycle is enforced. It's also porous and air. There's a lot of aeration within the mulch, as everybody knows who's a gardener, that harbors beneficial bacteria that help break down those harmful nitrates. The third thing that it does is that if you, with a huge free supply and endless resource of it from the slash, if you have it deep enough, the urine soaks in just so far and it never really hits the ground. Last point being is that the most harmful effect of urine is on contact. So it's when it's diffused or it's diluted through water or rain, when it goes into the soil, it's much less harmful than when they actually would urinate on a structure. So is the trees, the bark, but Bianca has already had that figured out. She has those tree guards. It keeps, if you can imagine, there's like a little gate. The dog cannot urinate directly onto the bark of the tree, so you preserve the tree. And yeah, that's about it.
Great. Thank you very much.
Wow.
Thank you.
I know I missed something.
That was great, Chris. I loved it.
Thanks, man.
If you don't mind, I'd like to add one more thing about the mitigation. When I talked to the El Paso Parks and Rec director, we specifically talked about the migration because they, in fact, have a creek running through their dog park, and dogs can actually go and play in the creek. He said they've never had an issue with the pH of the creek itself, and the urine is not really the main issue. It's more of the feces. So, yeah, that's it. Questions?
Well, I'm sure we're going to have a few. We have a lot of people to speak. And I think it's probably apropos that we take a little pee break right now, which we will. But I'm going to encourage this because I feel what's coming. And you talked about pros and cons on every location except for the Fountain Creek Greenway. And so I'm going to recommend when we get back, sit down and listen carefully, because I got a feeling there's a lot of people in this room that may want a dog park but may not necessarily want it there. And so we'll have that discussion, and that discussion I would like to start at 10 after 9. All right, thank you.
10 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
Larry Schneider.
Oh, well, I guess I could have went lower.
My wife is disabled and she's away from me. So you get that. It's 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
I've been here this long. I'm sorry. It's just I'm doing the best I can. Thanks. I'll get you first, Larry.
Guess I could have waited.
After I queried everyone after you left, they said, yeah. So I'm going to go on with quick.
I don't know, my dog used to love that. Your dog parked down there. My dog had wet paws. He was a German Terrier pointer. He was afraid of water. Really tell you to go like
ask the mayor. He runs the meeting.
Can I speak if I haven't signed up?
Absolutely. You can sign up, and what I usually do is, but go ahead, put your name down.
Okay, thank you.
You got a list of about 15 or so.
And Larry.
Cover it, I won't have to speak.
Thank you. Let me just make sure. Lord. We have some pretty big issues here. There's like 3 people.
They're really good.
Trick-or-treat bag?
No one's ever come to the Swiss Chalet for games.
Well, I'll remember that. I'll come next year. You know what's the funniest thing about her presentation? I have said for years that it was a requirement for everybody at Woodland Park to have 2 dogs. She just proved I was right.
See, that's what I can get.
You want something? I'll get it. Sure.
I'll just have to eat on 20.
Everybody's so excited. I went down.
Okay, welcome back.
Suzanne.
Halloween beer.
If everybody could please have a seat. And thank you very much. Okay, we're going to start with Larry Snyder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. My name's Larry Snyder. I live at 317 Woodland Drive. I walk your city streets, my city streets, almost every single day with my dog. Mm-hmm. And I walk through the proposed site of the dog park almost every single day, and I think it's an ideal spot. It's out of the way. It's just perfect. And I'm here to support Bianca, and I'm here to support the idea of the dog park, and I would urge you to move forward with this effort.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's the perfect kind of presentations. Whether you're for or against, that was just the right timing. Carrie Kilgore.
Good evening. I'm Carrie Kilgore, 1125 Ptarmigan. I'm the owner of Prestige Realty Group here in Woodland Park, but I also am retired Air Force and manage the community services at Peterson Air Force Base, Schriever Air Force Base, the Air Force Academy, and Los Angeles Air Force Base. We had dog parks at all three of those four entities, both LA, Schriever, and Peterson. Primarily, we focused into a very dense community area. We did not put one at the Air Force Academy because it was so spread out and so much land between the houses and not a good place to pull a community together. So using that background, a couple things I wanted to share is that I looked at the number of residents within a half a mile radius of the new apartments, which are right next to this proposed site. There are 772 residences within a half mile radius. So that goes with the thought that you saw both at Fort Carson and the Air Force bases, where we look for an area where there's a lot of walkability. Yes, you'll have traffic for some folks who are driving from another area of town, but the idea is to go into an area where you have a lot of walkability, and this location not only gets the walkways in and around behind Safeway, but even across Highway 24 where they can cross safely underneath the road. In comparison, I looked at a half a mile radius of Meadow of the sports complex, and it's about half as much of 407. Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much. Next is Sue Baddick. I hope I pronounced that right.
I'm Sue Baddick. I'm at 1220 Spruce Ridge Lane. I'm here on behalf of T-Crest. I'm a board member. Many of you who follow T-Crest know that we have a new program called Doggy Day Out. As part of that program, it's to get our shelter dogs out of the shelter environment. This dog park would be a perfect place to take our dogs to visit and to possibly find their next new best friend that they find at the dog park playing. And that's all I have to say.
That's great.
Well, thank you for
Thanks for the work you do.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Dave Smalley.
My name is Dave Smalley, 1060 Woodland Avenue. All for a dog park. I'm just very concerned. I probably won't be impacted with the noise too much, but I am concerned about the parking area. It's right across the street there in a very congested intersection already. I know you've talked about a lot of walking to and from, but Woodland Avenue, County Road 23, whatever you want to call it, is a very congested street morning and evening because people don't want to come through town, so they take the shortcut to go around. So dog park, great idea. I'm just concerned about the parking areas.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much, Dave. Cynthia Lee?
Hi, my name is Cynthia Lee. I live in the neighborhood where the proposed park's going to be. I walk my dog every day. I live up the street, Cavalier Park, so I walk my dog to the Cavalier Park every day, and if she's lucky, she gets to go to that trail. Now, the most people I see is maybe one or two people, and routinely people use Cavalier Park to walk their dogs, so if anything, I might see one or two cars parked there. So I don't see how the traffic will increase because people base it on routine and where they're comfortable walking. So if anything, the dog park will be a treat for my dog. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Bobby Jacobson.
Hi, my name is Bobby Jacobson, and I live at 1200 Woodland Avenue, and my driveway runs right into the parking lot, and I don't like that. I'm with David. Miss Bryan has done an excellent job, but I don't want it in my neighborhood, and I don't want that. The day I see 15 to 19 cars parked across the street from my driveway, that'll be the day I'll be calling the police. 15 to 19 dogs plus cars. Okay. There's already so much traffic on Woodland Avenue with Safeway and the apartment building. I've had 2 mailboxes knocked down. I had my back fence hit and killed an aspen tree. Of course, none of those 3 people stopped to help or to pay for the damage. Cars go by my house at 50 to 60 miles an hour, and there's 2 speed limit signs. I think somebody needs to invest in speed limit signs, because I'm out there feeding my birds, so I know what I'm talking about. Do any of the board members live on Woodland Avenue? So this doesn't affect you at all, does it? It affects me. And I'm only one person, but it affects me in a big way. And my doctor told me that I needed to get out and walk more. So I've lived there 27 years. We've had dogs all the time, and we walk our dogs. So the rest of you can do whatever you like. The people that donated to this project, did it specify in there that this money only went to this dog park right there? Does anybody know? So that money could still be used, but somewhere else, and that's what I want. And I just want to make one more comment, that in the Gazette, it says that Miss Bryan's parents have done 15 years of volunteer work, and Kent and I didn't know that we were supposed to submit a resume of our community service to the Gazette. What has that got to do with anything about the dog run, that they donated 15 years? I've donated a few years, but I didn't make the Gazette. My last point is that I don't want Miss Bryant's mother to verbally abuse me like she did Kent when he left last month. Thank you.
Ma'am, if I could mention to you, we on council live on everybody's street, so that's what our duty is, and so we're sensitive to everybody's situation, everybody's street.
Lori Naples.
Lori Naples, I live at 319 April Sun Court in Woodland Park, and I think we can all agree that we need young families moving into Woodland Park. I moved in with my family 17 years ago, and at that time, Halloween, our streets were so crowded we couldn't even get a car down the street. Last night I had 5 trick-or-treaters. I can't believe how much it's changed in that short period of time. I also work at the middle school, and there's a lot of discussion about our population is going down. You know, younger families are not moving into Woodland Park because of the prices. We're all aware of that. And I just want to point out that we want younger families moving in. This dog park would be a huge asset. That's the kind of stuff that younger people moving into communities look for.
Great, thank you very much.
I would just comment
Please.
that if you would like to have trick-or-treaters, you should come to my house on Halloween night, because there were hundreds.
I used to have hundreds. I don't know where they all go.
They go to Northwoods.
Sean Nielsen? He did. Thank you. Kent Markley?
How you doing, Mayor, City Council? Guess I'll address some of the issues that come up here. If somebody thinks that younger couples are going to move to this town, spend $50,000 more for the same house they could down in the Springs because of the dog park, that's out there ways. It's not going to happen. My neighborhood, I moved in 10 years ago. Mom moved in 10 years ago. We bought it, built, because we had a Greenway Park, because we had nice neighbors. I'm the new guy on the block, and I've been there 10 years. We've got an older neighborhood, older people. They walk their dogs. Saying there's no house within 150 feet of this proposed park. Whoever did this map did a real nice job of covering up our house with the words right here. The house is 30 feet from the back lot line. I know because it had to be there for setbacks. The well is 15 feet closer to the back lot line. And the park is 25 feet, the corner of the park is 25 feet from my well. You say you want to do stuff for the whole community, everybody. Don't put this dog park there. Put it somewhere else. I'm all in favor of dog park. But we bought there and lived there. I'm probably the most person affected by this. I have 2 properties there. It's not fair that I bought a place I want to retire at. I want to live there the rest of my life. Woodland Park, Colorado. That's where I want to live. That's why I moved here. That's why I spent the extra money. That's why I moved Mom up here and built her a nice house up here. We don't want a dog park in our neighborhood. Everybody that's for this dog park, nobody lives on our street. None of you live on our street. It's not fair. You got newspaper articles in the Gazette. So what? You're popular. So you're popular. Maybe I'm not the popular person. I stay to myself. I pay my bills. I pay my taxes. And I expect somebody to stand up for me. And Mayor, I expect you to stand up for me and not let them put this dog park in my backyard. Sorry if I sound upset. I am upset.
You know what?
Very upset.
I don't blame you. It's an emotional issue.
If it's your backyard, you'd be upset.
It's emotional, I get it. But understand, and have your mom understand, this is what we're here for. We're spending time to try to make the right decision. You can go ahead and have a seat, but we're going to work together to make the best decision for our community. I'm sorry, I'll probably get this one wrong. Carrie DeVazic? I'm sorry, DeVock.
Hi, I'm Carrie DeValk, 520 North Elm Street, and my husband and I retired to beautiful Woodland Park about 1.5 years ago. And my reason for supporting this dog park, my reasons are all of the above. In addition, a societal reason, I taught high school for 33 years, and I've seen teenagers from one end of the spectrum to the other, and everywhere in between. And this young woman is one of the best. I haven't met her, I've just been following it on social media, but she's going places. So I think an investment in her proposal is an investment positively in our community and in our country.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lynn Harrison.
Hi, Lynn Harrison, 105 Steel Forest Lane, Woodland Park. I'm just here in support of a remarkable young woman and hope that we end up with a dog park somewhere in Woodland Park, if not in this location. We do a lot of traveling, we're retired, and we visit a lot of dog parks all over most of the western United States. It's a great gathering place for disabled people, for senior people, for young people, and yeah, we've got great national forest trails and hiking areas, but there are a lot of people that are unable to use national forest trails. It'd be a great addition to our city, and wherever it ends up, Bianca, I think you're a wonderful young woman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Becky Darrow? Darrow. The first time or the second time?
rest of the attendees. My name is Becky Darrow. My home is at 102 Saddle Drive. It's about 4 blocks from the proposed dog park site. I'm here in support of Bianca Bryant's plan for dog park in Woodland Park. She's the community for her work in this community. I am a senior citizen. I'm somewhat disabled. My husband and I have 3 German Shepherd dogs, and we take turns walking them. The dogs are 11, 5, and 1 year old. We walk them together, and we take turns walking them. We walk them on public lands and trails, and we like to take them to socialize. When they're on leash, the dogs don't socialize very well. They're kind of aggressive and checkers. But when you take them to a dog park, they get to be off leash and socialize with other dogs, and they're friendlier. Currently, we take them down to the Bear Creek Dog Park in Colorado Springs. It's about half an hour away, and that's not very convenient when the weather's bad and I can't drive down the pass. One of the places I walk my dog on leash is along the walk by the Greenway behind Safeway. And often loose dogs come from the area. They're around those homes that are in that area, and they chase us. And when your dog's on a leash and a loose dog chases you, that's not a good thing. So I'm all for a dog park because it would be fenced, it would be contained, and you could be safe in there with your dog. You wouldn't have to worry about trying to control your dog when another dog's attacking it when it's not on a leash. The benefits of dog park are numerous. They can act as the gathering spot for pet parents. When my husband and I first moved here in 2008, it would have been nice to have a dog park for people with similar interests. Dog parks promote safety because pet owners are not walking on busy streets. With the closure of Valley Road, our street, which is Saddle and Sheridan, has become quite busy. There's a lot more traffic now, and so it's somewhat dangerous when people come speeding down that road when I'm walking my dog. Public dog parks allow dogs to get plenty of off-leash exercise and social activity with other animals. With the dog park, you have healthier pets and people to improve the quality of life in the community. Dog parks also attract out-of-town visitors. When we travel with our dogs, we Google to find sites that have dog parks, and a lot of people do that. And there's actually maps that map places that have dog parks, and people will come stay there because you have a dog park. I wonder how many people here tonight have pet dogs or had dogs as their children were growing up, because the child's dog teaches them fidelity, perseverance, and to turn around 3 times before laying down.
Absolutely.
And I have one question for you. What do you get when you cross a dog in a calculator? You get a friend you can count on. I support this dog park. Thank you.
Thank you. That's great. Larry Watt? Larry Watt. We lost Larry. Al Bourne.
I'm Al Bourne. I live at 704 Woodland Avenue. Mr. Mayor, members of council and staff, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. And I'm going to give you just 2 paragraphs, and we're going to cut them back quite a bit. So, the first paragraph is one that I wanted to address, and that is to compliment Bianca for her vision, definition of a project, and the promotion thereof. To obtain a Girl Scout Gold Award is a monumental, significant event. To see a young person demonstrating such high-level vision, ingenuity, work ethic is awesome and should be celebrated. As mentioned earlier, she is an amazing young lady. Paragraph number 2, sort of a administrative summary. Yes, I agree that there's at least 1,871 cars per day running up Woodland Avenue, and there are times that there's more than that. Unfortunately, they're in a very short period of time, and the traffic on Woodland Avenue is constantly increasing. Therefore, I think it is unfair to subject the residents that are lining Woodland Avenue on both sides with an even greater traffic volume than what we have experienced right now. The big volume change occurred when they closed down Valley Drive, and now they run all the way up through that. And yes, there are times when I do a small count that in any given hour we'll have 250 to 400 cars pass our house. We can't even get out of our driveway at times, so it is very, very large. Likewise, I think it is not fair to subject the immediate adjacent residential homes to increased noise from barking dogs, a potential for dog fecal odor, motor vehicle noise, and additional people noise. Therefore, I'm supportive of the project, but not in that location. It's going to be a deterioration of our neighborhood.
Thanks, Al. Thank you.
The midsection of Woodland Avenue has really been impacted with vehicle traffic, both cars, trucks, delivery vehicles of all sorts. And it is a major issue that's being developed.
Al, thanks.
Thank you.
Just a question for you. You've been around longer than anybody else. You sat in this seat for a long time yourself. Maybe you could have a discussion with Bianca about a location that you think might be suitable.
That certainly went through my mind. I have done no research on trying to figure that out, for them at this particular time. Perhaps that would be a thing that would be of value to them, but it is an event that needs to be, reviewed very, very closely.
Hey, thanks for your input.
Thank you.
You bet. Michael Dalton.
My name's Michael Dalton. You can also find me on Facebook as The Underground. I live at 413 Woodland Avenue.
Michael, you're just a little close to it. Thanks.
Oh, everybody else gets too far away.
You talk
I'm
loud.
too loud.
There you go.
Mayor, I'd also like to say that we've only been going 20 minutes since break. And if I could collect everyone else's minutes, I know you're not going to let me do that, but I just was going to say that. I live on Woodland Avenue. I'm 60 seconds from where this dog park is going to happen. Where's Mr. Alborn?
Could happen.
I haven't been here as long as you, but I've been here 15 years. I've lived in that location 8 years. I've been in Teller County 15 years. Traffic is not going away. I wish we could make it go away. You may have counted. I have videoed hours and hours and hours and hours of footage of people running stop signs on Woodland Avenue. At my house, I got 3 kids. I got 3 kids on this side of me. I got 3 kids on this side of me. Traffic is an issue, Mayor, but you already know that. I've X'd off a bunch of stuff because it's been answered. The science has been answered tonight. If you try to bring up an environmental claim to not put this dog park next to the creek, the science has already been answered from guys from the military, from the specialists. The science has been answered. Everybody loves dogs. You can't say that about cats. But you can say that about dogs, because dogs are man's best friend. Dogs are good for the community. It's been said tonight. But I'd like to say this. That apartment complex snuck in. It snuck in. Everybody knows it snuck in. How it got here, I don't know. How it was conceived, how it worked its way in, I don't know. But it's more damage to the environment than a couple of dogs' urine. And I say that because they got a lot of dogs over there. So much so in the first 2 years, I took a video that went viral about their dog pooping on the path. Please don't cut me off, Mayor. Pooping off on the path. And you know what happened over there at that Trail Ridge Apartments? They take DNA testing of their dogs. And if you let your dog poop on that path, they're going to charge you upwards of $500. That's how much they take that feces into consideration. So when you get mad at the apartment complex, trust me, I've been in this courtroom with my dog about this apartment complex. But don't get mad at them, because they DNA test their dogs for feces. And that's a true statement, because that's how serious it is.
30 seconds.
Oh, crap. Dogs are good for community. Community is good for this place. If like-minded people from the apartment complex to the neighborhood come together and they meet at the dog park, it's good. If you vote against this tonight, you're against community in this town. And the only other better place would be is right downtown, but that's been held up in a lawsuit.
Brad Morehouse, is he here? Okay, now all you got to do is, well, before I go forward with council's comments, I'll ask if anybody else in the audience would like to speak at this time. And say that, yes, ma'am. Come right ahead. This is your opportunity.
Hi, I'm Linda Murray. I got here late, so I didn't sign up. But I live at 90 Stanford Place in Woodland Park, and I would say I drive down to the dog park. We have 2 dogs. We go all the way down to Colorado Springs because we feel it's important to exercise your dogs. Another part that's important for us now, my husband has developed a disability where he's in a rollator, and he can't walk on rough paths. And so a dog park gives us a situation where it's a controlled situation where he can have the dogs running freely because he just physically can't help the dog on a leash. And that would be extremely helpful for us to not have to drive 30 miles to do that. So I would appreciate a dog park. And everyone I've heard, even the people who don't like the idea of where the dog park is, have given it a thumbs up. So I think you guys should take the percentages of people that want this idea and make it happen. Thank you.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Yes, ma'am. You may.
I'm Claudia Miller, and I live at 810 Majestic Parkway. And I actually came here for another part of the agenda. But as I'm listening to this, I'm relating it a bit to the experience we had with the cluster homes. With respect to it's a two-way thing. I can see the point so much on wanting to have something for the community in terms of the dog park. That just seems so obvious. I can also feel compassion and empathy for the people that are impacted from this coming close to their homes. And I would just suggest that a lot of consideration be done with respect to the possibility of another area if this doesn't work out with the people in the community, because we kind of lived through that with our experience. And it's very impactful when you put your home investments in a place and it's going to be your golden years. So those are some thoughts I have.
Great. Thanks for your input. Last opportunity. Chris, you spoke once before. I'm going to give you 20 seconds.
That's all I need, Mayor. So about the money collected, there has been no money collected. It's all basically good intention and will at this point. The city has not allowed her to collect any monies at this point because it's not approved.
Thank you.
Mayor, can I have 10 seconds?
No, all right, 10 seconds. You got it.
If a dog park doesn't go there, what if a gas station does?
Thank you.
It's a green park. We live at a gas station at Green Park.
Council? Hey.
Put it in your backyard.
Gentlemen, if you'd like to stay here, you'll be respectful of everybody. If not, I'm going to ask you to leave. Okay, Val, would you like to start this discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to echo Al Bourne's wise words. This is a fantastic project put together by this young lady. Spectacular effort. A model citizen that makes me hopeful more than a lot of other youth I've seen in the community where I came from, not this community, but Southern California. So I'm really thrilled that this young lady has put this effort into the thing. Councilmember Harvey brought up something that we have to consider, which is we have to consider ongoing costs, maintenance, and all those things. They're not minimal. We're finding that out with the pool, with the park, with everything we do, that there are enormous costs involved with all these things. The other impacts are on the neighborhoods. I personally represent citizens. All of you out there, you know, we're not taking a poll tonight because of the people that are here, but we certainly think this is a fantastic idea. I don't think it's a good place for it. I think there's better places for it, and I think we can do better with the location that's non-impactful. And with that in mind, we on council have to consider more than just the upfront costs. We have to consider the long-term costs to the neighborhoods, to the environment, to our budget, which is always tight recently, and I want to thank the young lady for putting this effort forward. I think there's a lot of people in this audience and on this dais that would think this is a great idea to have a dog park. I don't think it's in a good location here. Thank you.
Who would like to go next? Kelly? Do you have comment?
I'm thinking about it.
Think about it. Carol?
I'm sure I do.
Carol's got comment.
You know I don't ever be quiet.
Well, I would first ask how this location came about. Sally, do you have the background on that? Why this particular piece of real estate?
I do. There was about 5 years ago, we had another citizen come forward who was actually willing to fund a dog park. And so we gathered the planner from the county, who was Laura Pellegrino at the time, as well as myself, the city manager, and maybe there was another staff person there. But we looked at a number of the neighborhood parks in the area, the park up on Chippewa, and this area. We were intrigued by this area primarily because it was fairly large. It was behind a shopping center and located on a collector street. So it wasn't on a local street that was inside a neighborhood area. And, you know, it was the area that seemed the most likely in terms of property that the city owned. And we didn't look at Meadowood Park very hard because it already had a master plan associated with it. And I think it was Cindy that was with us on that tour. So that was our approach, and that was 5 years ago.
Okay. So we could continue to assess where a potential location could be. And I think that's my primary concern. Obviously, a terrific idea. I don't know if the lady is still here who worked on the park at Peterson Air Force Base. It's named Garden of the Dogs. And I am so dyslexic, I drove by it I don't know how many months before I finally realized what the play on words was. But I'm certainly in favor of a dog park within the city limits. But we've got individuals here who live in close proximity to this proposed position, and we have to consider their concerns, their property values. There's no doubt that this young lady has done a great job in presenting an idea that maybe we can take a more deliberate effort in looking at it for the next year's budget. I'm not certain what we're being asked to do as a council. I think you've indicated to us that you really don't even need our approval. Is that correct?
Well, it is city property, and of course the staff would always look to the council for permission to develop parks or open space.
My recommendation is, if you're asking for the city council's opinion of this project, great idea, wrong location, wrong time. If you're asking us for, and I asked the question, I don't believe it would cost a tremendous amount of money to maintain the park, but I never count chickens before they hatch. You know, a lot of folks have said they would come forward with money and donations and labor, but you got to continue to maintain a facility like this, and I'd rather us have a more deliberate approach to this and look at it as something for the 2020 budget.
Hillary?
I echo Carol's concerns and Val's concerns also. I think it's a fantastic idea. I have dogs, I dog sit, I love dogs. I'm not fond of the location because I'm not comfortable with the expense of and the construction of a 19-car parking lot right next to someone's private property when we have other areas that already have parking available. I've actually consulted with some members of the DDA and asked if they would consider putting a dog park on that property at Woodland Station right in the middle of town. I think that would be an ideal location. The DDA members have agreed, but they have not had a discussion with their board and they haven't come to any consensus. It's just been a light discussion of, wouldn't it be great if we had a place that already had parking, half of it's already fenced. It could be a great place for the community to gather. We could have Friday night food trucks and all kinds of other events where people could also convene at the dog park. And we could do signage that it makes it obvious we have a dog park, so people traveling through, we've got 30,000 cars on 24. If they saw a sign that we had a dog park, how many of those people might get out, stretch their legs, notice we have shops and restaurants, and want to take the time to mosey over to those? I don't know that that's the best location, but I think it's a better location. I think the concept is great, and I would really like to see it come to fruition, just not in that particular location at this time.
Kelly.
Talking about the Woodland Station area, I think that southern end of that lot is a challenge for development anyway.
Yes.
And would provide for some open space in that area, which I've heard a lot of conversation that would be very appealing to people in that land in the center of town. It's a great idea. It's easy access. We're having the construction that's going on will extend Pikes Peak to 24, providing another access point other than in the center of town by the hardware store. There's also been, at one point, we had a local resident offer some additional land at Meadowood Park for the swimming pool.
Yeah, it's true.
Would maybe that person be interested in still doing something like that to accommodate a dog park in that area? Just something that popped into my mind this evening that might be an option, because I know that what you looked at Meadowood Park wasn't quite enough land to really do it effectively. I would agree the dog park has been a topic of conversation for years, and certainly is obviously the dog park, even for those in the neighborhood that's being proposed, are not opposed to a dog park, and I don't blame them. Meadowood Park is at the end of my street, and Evergreen Heights Drive is already, a major highway, I-25 to Meadowood Park, and last night, holy cow, that's in my backyard, but it just seems like that would be a good fit as well in an area that's already a recreational type area. So I too strongly support the project. I'm overly impressed, and outstanding job, Bianca, beyond reproach. You are an inspiration to kids your age and to adults. I agree, it's not the right location. And I apologize that you've put the effort into the location, but I think your plan will fit any number of other places very easily and won't increase your costs significantly either. So that's where I stand, Mr.
Good.
Mayor.
I appreciate it. Bianca, do us a favor. Come up to this podium, because I know everybody wants to give you a round of applause just to start. Because great job.
Don't be discouraged.
No,
Don't be discouraged.
Clearly don't be discouraged. You hear the conversation tonight, do you not? You've got great resources in Cindy and Sally and your friends in the community. And so here's your homework, and come back to us, right? It's clear that a dog park is something that you have a clear consensus on. It's clear that the location that you're talking about right now has got some issues, and I think the council will agree that they're not going to approve anything there, at least at this point. So go back, do your homework, ask the people around, talk to the city manager, talk to others in the community, Mr. Bourne, who's a retired or a former mayor and knows the community, because you got a great idea. Everything you've done is really, it's outstanding. Everyone here with a smile on their face, and you bring a group of people together from this community with all, great input, and you've just done a tremendous job. So keep up the work. You know what your homework is ahead of you, and we'll look forward to seeing you back here again. And if you need help,
I would like to invite her to come to the DDA. We have a meeting Tuesday morning at 7:30. If you would like to join us, I'm sure we can make room for you on our agenda and still get you to school on time.
And no, really, you're not getting full support in terms of location, but you got support from everybody in your project. And let's just find the right place for it. And I look forward to that day that we make that decision. So. Well, she talked about them all already. We're gonna stop this conversation now. She's talked about 3 or 4 other locations, but I want something more concrete. I want something that has been, just looked into a little bit more in depth. You've got great resources all around you. So when the time comes, and you might start with our city manager, Mr. Tangeman, and go from there. But you already have a great invitation to DDA. Everyone here supports you. So once again, thank you, and we'll look forward to seeing you here at council again.
Am I allowed to add one more thing?
Absolutely.
So I am actually on a time crunch for this because I have to be done by my senior year, and I'm a junior this year. And part of your Gold Award project is it has to impact your community permanently. So I did look at Woodland Station as a possible dog park property that we could use, but I know there is discussion about building something there in the future, and I don't think if we built it there, it would, be a permanent dog park. It would eventually be knocked down and something would be built on top of it.
Yeah, and I would recommend that don't make that decision now. Wait until you talk to the people at the DDA and the rest of the people that you know. And don't get discouraged. A year is a long time. We can get it done, but you're going to have to be the one to drive it. You got a lot of support right here in the community.
DDA may not necessarily not be a permanent location. Come and see us. And I'm happy to facilitate your work with the DDA board.
Val, let's finish this conversation.
Mayor, I'm not sure if we need to make a motion to table this to a future date or not.
Nope.
All right.
We're just gonna wait until we hear back from Bianca. Okay? Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, we can move on to, thank you.
Too bad this is a detention pond.
New business, agenda item number 10, and Darwin Nacarado. I think Darwin will give about a minute so those that want to go home can.
Us too?
Thank you all for coming. I'm sorry?
Can we go too?
We probably got it. Wait a second.
Well, it's detention ponds.
Are you going
Okay, sir.
I'm Darwin Nacarado. I live here in Woodland Park. I don't have a huge presentation because I think everybody's already read the documents that we've proposed. Community Investment Committee has met several times in an effort to redraft the resolution that created the committee in the first place from back in 2008. And I think we're there. We pretty much had a unanimous decision, I guess, of the committee last, I guess it was last week or week before. I can't even remember. I've lost track of time. And you have that in your packet. You have both a cover letter and the language of the, I don't know whether you want to call them bylaws or what we're going to call them, but sort of the direction for the committee. You should also have in your packet the resolution, which I didn't happen to get printed, but Suzanne just handed to me. And we're ready to go. I guess the logic and the impetus for coming to council, whenever that was, early October, I think, maybe even before that, was that I was worried, and the committee was sort of agreed with me that in years when perhaps the reserve balance was the number one priority for council. We should really look at what we were doing a little more carefully and maybe refine how we made awards and recommendations for grants to these various recipients. What we came up with is sort of encapsulated in the cover letter that's in your council packet tonight. What we did was created the concept of signature events, and we've talked about that many times, so I hope everyone has a fairly clear idea of what that is. The cover letter describes in general how those would be handled differently than they have been in the past. Essentially, the Community Investment Committee would evaluate applicants for signature status and then make recommendations to council for that signature status. That's based on the criteria that's spelled out in the document itself. The key is that once that recommendation is passed to council, council can either approve or reject that, of course. If it's approved, community investment really has no more to do with that organization or whatever it is. That has become then a city signature event managed by council directly. We will make a recommendation along with our recommendation for signature status. We'll also tell you the amount of money that we would have recommended for that organization or event had it just stayed in community investment. If you reject it, it goes back to community investment as just one of the applicants. Community Investment Committee will review those approved signature status folks, organizations, whatever they are, annually, and we may make further recommendations for additional signature events, what I would call adds or drops. You know, if we find out that there's a huge scandal developing around something that's been a community event, we'll recommend that it lose that status.
Excuse me, Mr. Nicholas. Jim, do you think you could help them with whatever their issue is? Thank you.
Okay, it's outside now. It's outside.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry, darling, go ahead.
I'm glad I lost most of the audience anyway. So. Further than what we've done, aside from the signature event thing, we would still look at events that have a cultural or financial return on investment to the city and make recommendations for those through the normal community investment process. What we want to kind of drop out of it are the pass-through events where organizations ask for money from the city and then turn around and donate it to someone else. The only caveat I have for that is that it's possible that an organization would do that, and we would recommend them as a signature event anyway, which takes them out of that negative, and they now become a signature event. And I'll give you the example of the car show, the Cruise Above the Clouds. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me for the city to donate the same amount of money, and it's been decreasing over the years, to that event, even though they turn around and donate it to and turn it into $20,000 to $30,000 that they donate to very worthy causes. I don't want to discourage that, and I think the event itself speaks well for the city of Woodland Park. So I would probably one that would recommend that as for signature status. What that would mean is you folks then would determine what in-kind or money or whatever services you wanted to give to that event. We would want to keep track of the costs associated with those in-kind services as well. So if they get the use of Memorial Park gratis, or if the city grants them that without charging, well, that really is a loss of revenue to the city, so that's a cost, the way I see it, and that's how I would account for that. I don't want to make it look like all of a sudden the city is not contributing to those signature events. You will be, if you choose to do that. And you can also choose to donate additional money to them if you wanted to, but that wasn't my point in creating that. The other sort of class of organizations that we've contributed to in the past heavily, as a matter of fact, especially after the 2008 recession, was sort of the charitable organizations, some of which are directly religious groups or even political groups. I don't really, to me that's simply a redistribution, and in better times there are private groups, corporations, companies, businesses, individuals that are better able to support those groups of their own volition. So my thinking is that as a city, as a community investment committee recommending to the city council, I can't in good faith recommend that we force somebody to make a contribution whether they want to or not. So these documents sort of don't 100% preclude us from doing that, but pretty much.
Council?
That's where we are.
One of the questions I have is what do we call this documentation? Does the charter address committee bylaws, committee rules of engagement? What we've never kind of got our hands around what we call this set of rules. Would it be bylaws?
I don't know the answer to that.
Do you want me to try to take a stab at it? The document that we used to create the committee in the first place was simply made part of the resolution.
Okay.
And I think we could do that here very simply. And the resolution that is drafted pretty much does that. It says per the attached.
Okay.
We struggled with that. We did look it up, and it's why we call it mission parameters and qualifiers in our cover letter. It sort of describes what it actually is as opposed to bylaws or anything.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense.
It's kind of, it's a good question. It's just,
There's also, I guess I should add, if this is approved, then the committee will meet almost immediately, and that date and time is already set. And one of the things we'll have to do is create some new operating procedures that tie to this.
Anything else, Council? I'll just weigh in quickly. I was fortunate to be able to sit in on last CIF meeting. There are got just very, very difficult decisions. From one decision to the next, they are emotional. They're just very, very difficult. So I just want to thank you for your time and your whole staff, including Mayor Pro Tem Carr, and you've got some of them here today. But it is difficult what you try to do, Suzanne. A certain amount of money, how you divide it up. But I would be certainly in favor of this resolution and the change in the bylaws, and that gives the city a little more flexibility and gives council a little bit more flexibility in who they want to give the money to on an individual basis. And so once again, thanks. And I know you're a little bit under the gun time-wise, so maybe we can get a motion to approve this resolution and get it approved today. Before we do that, I know that Gail Gehrig would like to come up and say a word or two, and then we'll go from there. Gail?
Gail Gehrig, address is 1180 Pine Ridge Road, Woodland Park. I am making a comment on the CIF, and I presented some of these comments about a year ago. I think tonight I am representing a thought for the nonprofits and all those senior citizens who are already in bed by tonight. And most of the time I am. I wanted to remind people and bring up again some of the demographics of Teller County. In 2010, the population of the people over 60 increased by 21%. In 2010, there were 3,100 people 65 or over in Teller County, and in 2020, it's projected to be 6,200. That's the silver tsunami that's hitting the area. These people, they pay property tax, they pay sales tax, they supported an expensive bond of $10 million for the pool, they supported parks. It is time for, I think, the whole area to keep this population in mind. And I go to the meetings and I've heard about the cultural center and the need for electrical repairs, and I sympathize with you for all the things that you're addressing with the budget. But I think the big picture in the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years has to include this population that is going to continue to grow, and all the seniors who want to live in Woodland Park and age in place. Right now, and I just arbitrarily picked 3, the senior center is the only place for a little bit of social activity. It is in dire straits for support of finances, and yet it's the tiny little building where a few people get to come. The Daybreak, for example, it is the one nonprofit dealing with one of the biggest problems that the seniors are going to hit, and that is loss of memory. It deals with the seniors that are involved, it deals with the caregivers. It will be a major issue for this area with that high senior population. I am on the board of the Teller Senior Coalition, and we are essentially the only group in the area providing transportation. Most towns have some sort of transportation within the city, within the area, whatever. Woodland Park does not have that. And as far as giving back to the city, Teller Senior Coalition has 11 employees. We are someone who has job positions for the city and donates back to the city, and through our volunteers and our volunteer services.
Gail, I appreciate your comments. We're not talking about who we're giving money to today. We're just going to try to change the bylaws.
I think what I wanted to emphasize is that in the CIF, senior nonprofit donations, 2 years ago your money was $27,000, and then it was reduced to $20,000. And I'm talking about representing this group in that large funding area. I'm not asking for funds for just one thing, just that I think the senior population and the need in the community is being minimized right now, or not really the big picture being looked at. And this is mainly an awareness thing. And the nonprofits, I think, are also looking for the city, not only for funds, but for support in by participation. And along with the CIF, there's the Rural Community Council now that is going to address transportation, and we'll be looking to the city for participation in that. Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much. Council?
Mr. Mayor, may I make one additional comment, I guess, that I failed to do earlier. When this the Community Investment Committee was created, there was a caveat in that resolution, and it's still in this one, that limits us to 3% of the unrestricted general fund balance. We've not really lived up to that. We've gotten more several times than that 3% would have been in times when it's negative, or when we had much less in the general fund balance. I'm suggesting we don't do that. We leave that 3%, make that be the number. If the unrestricted general fund balance isn't at least 10%, which is what this says now, we don't do it at all.
That's good input.
Thank you.
Council, I'd like to hear a motion to approve Resolution 836.
I move to approve Resolution 836, Series 2018, adopting the Community Investment Committee report and process dated November 1, 2018.
Second? Thank you. Any other discussion?
I would like to I just have to express that I'm just not completely sold on this signature. And that's all I can say. I can't really elaborate on that too much. I just haven't gotten there yet. So I'll go ahead and approve this, but I don't know if that's an appropriate way for the city to support. But I can't give you any reasons why. I'm just not there yet personally.
Well, I have a similar concern, and I'm not sure how it will shake out in that the signature events are going to get some, in many cases, not always, get in-kind contributions, and we've got to take that into consideration when those same organizations come to that small percentage of our general fund.
Well, but the good news is, right, the council gets more control of that now. And so, let's see how it plays out. I don't know, just sitting in a couple of meetings, I don't know if there's a right or wrong right now. We like to give that money. I like what Gail said about Daybreak, and we use that example. Obviously, I'm close to Daybreak, but why should the city give money to Daybreak? Just a theoretical question. When people that see the value of Daybreak, they can give money to Daybreak on their own, right? Why should that be something that's mandated by the city? I don't know that. I don't have a yes or a no. They're just really hard questions, and nothing to be discussed again today. But just know that we're kind of all in the same boat. We're trying to feel our way forward, and Darwin's shaking his head, and he's been doing this for longer than anybody. We're just trying to make it right, if you will.
On those lines, I have another comment. In reading the minutes from our October 4th meeting, there was a public comment made by a businessman in the community that the Community Investment Fund is discretionary and should not be considered for the 2019 budget year. He said that the community will step up in lieu of the CIF. So,
one man's opinion.
it is, but I think that's a consideration. I am a participant in some of those signature events.
Yes, you are.
And involved in bringing them into this community. One of them has never applied to the CIF, and I think the similarities with another, because the home tour gives back to the nonprofits, and everything associated with that is very similar and almost identical to the Cruise Above the Clouds. And so I say, all right, are the signature events ones that have already been participating, or do other signature events potentially have an opportunity to come before the council
Well, they should.
and ask?
Well, they should.
Hard questions, right?
It is, and so those are the kinds of things that are going through my mind that have brought this question up about the signature events. And so that's as far as I've gotten. I'm not yay, nay, or anywhere in between, so I'll support approving this resolution this evening.
We'll see how it plays
But I'm
out.
still working through it. So
I think we're all in the same boat. Yeah, I think we're all in the same boat. I have a motion. I don't know that I have a second.
You do. You have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Carr and a second by Councilwoman LeBar.
Suzanne?
Thank you. Levy?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Case? Harvey? Yes. LeBar?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-0.
And everybody that's involved, thank you very much. Darwin, thanks for leading that. I know it's a lot of work. Okay, we'll move on to reports and mayor's reports. Suzanne, do I have any events that I should be announcing that I can't think of right now?
I'm sorry, Mayor.
That's okay.
I know Chrissy prepares that for you. I don't
and
know.
Chrissy's not here.
Maybe Debbie would know if there's some
Christmas
events.
lighting, tree lighting.
But just till the 15th is all. For the next week or so, I don't. Do you have anything in the next week?
The third Tuesday is our business after hours, which will November 20th, which will be at People's Bank. And then just to save the date, December 14th will be a State of the Region membership breakfast that we'll be putting on, and we will have Teller County Commissioner Chair Mark Dettenreiter and our Mayor Neil Levy, who will talk to us about where we've been, what our challenges are, and where we're going for the region.
Thank you. One thing, Cindy, you have something?
I was just going to say, isn't there an event at the school for Veterans Day? I don't have a lot of information on it, but...
Jim, can you speak to that? Do you have the date?
I think each council member got an invitation to that event.
We did. And there is also on the 11th, I know for sure, there's a Veterans Day event, but I wish I could tell you that's a Sunday. I believe it's at the Cultural Center at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Deb's looking that up now. But that's a great event, and the one at the school is tremendous also, Jim.
It's Monday the 12th.
Monday the 12th.
It's the holiday itself.
Okay.
Veterans recognition.
Last year or the year before we had to cancel because of weather, but it's a terrific event. Also relative to the school, it's kind of special. Our girls volleyball team, for the first time in our history, has made it to the regionals. Not only made it to the regionals, but has done so well they qualified 12th, which allows us to host a regional, which will happen at 10:30 on Saturday. And if the girls can overcome 2 other schools, then for the first time they'll hang a banner in the auditorium, in the gymnasium, and get to go to the state tournament. So anybody want to see some great volleyball, 10:30 on Saturday. Val?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to read a statement into the record. Mayor, fellow council members, and Woodland Park citizens, this is the first regular meeting of the council since October 4th, 2018, when a citizen letter was read into the record by the mayor. That letter was addressed to all council members, but only the mayor, city clerk, and city manager had seen it before being read that night. The letter itself was an ad hominem attack on another citizen, was filled with personal accusations that challenged truth and real history. The letter itself was read with elevated volume and emotion instead of a matter-of-fact manner letters have always been read previously, prompting much discomfort by the rest of the council. The city and council are preparing certain modifications to our procedures and protocol to eliminate citizen attacks by council or other citizens being brought into the record by council or the city. There are plenty of other First Amendment venues available for citizens to address the public in person, including public comment on items not on the agenda. The council members must be prohibited from participating in any kind of attacks on anybody, including other citizens, in the future behavior as is expected by Woodland Park citizens. All of council will have any letters of a controversial nature in their advance packet, and no last-minute letters will be accepted or read by anybody on council or the city without point of order and sanction jeopardy, except event announcements of a time-critical nature, which is under consideration. This council member puts on notice those who would attempt to use this council or their social media collaborators that we will no longer tolerate any backdoor and uncivilized manipulations and untruths in this public forum. We are here to do the citizens' business and not any individual citizen's private issue promotion or corruption of our deliberative body via any backdoor method. If a citizen has an issue, they may personally read it into the council as a body during public comment on items not on the agenda, but will be required to be civil, and no ad hominem attacks or assaults will be tolerated from that podium either, ignoring of which may leave the speaker subject to removal from the chambers. Thank you for your consideration.
Anything else?
We didn't get a copy of that, though, Val, before the meeting.
Just saying. Nothing. Just on that note, I would just ask, there's been some correspondence that I have that I believe the council should have that they don't have, and I did bring it to them this evening to share. And I just would ask that more due diligence and more care be given to things that should be presented to the city council are done in a timely manner. And otherwise, I'd like to just say that we have tickets on sale for the Tweeds Holiday Home Tour, and we are if you buy your tickets before November 15th in advance, we are giving away 4 tickets to the Broncos-Chargers game on December 30th, along with a 2-room, 1-night stay to those folks at the Renaissance Hotel in downtown Denver. So please shop early, shop often, and support your Tweeds Holiday Home Tour and Focus on the Forest. The Woodland Park Senior Organization, whom we've been visiting about already this evening, and Teller Habitat for Humanity with the purchase of your tickets. We have a lovely event for you this year, and thank you.
How many houses?
We have 6 homes and a holiday home tour, hospitality house, and with fresh baked goods, cider, coffee, and we have lovely music by live local talents mingling the homes, and I think you would all enjoy it immensely. Thank you, Carol, for asking.
Thanks, Kelly. Carol?
You're welcome.
I will provide council the results of the last CML Policy Committee meeting via email. But I did want to take an opportunity to paraphrase from a press release that U.S. Northern Command put out today about border support, and I feel like I owe it to the community to help them understand what the Department of Defense is doing in support of Customs and Border Protection on the southwest border. The Department of Homeland Security, under which the Customs and Border Protection is an agency, has requested the Department of Defense to provide a range of assistance, and that's including planning, engineering, transportation, logistics, and medical support to the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency. This request for assistance will enhance the CBP's ability to impede or deny illegal crossings and maintain situational awareness as it contributes to the CBP's overall border security mission. DoD forces in support of DHS and CBP will be under the command of U.S. Northern Command, and some of you who may not realize that, that's right here in the Front Range at Peterson Air Force Base. The DHS support operations has been designated as Operation Faithful Patriot, and I will not tell you all of the units that are involved, but the primary support of the forces will be for military planning teams to coordinate operations, engineering, medical, and logistics support, helicopter companies to support the movement of CBP's tactical personnel, engineer battalions to erect temporary vehicle barriers and fencing, deployable medical units to triage, treat, and prepare for commercial transport of patients, temporary housing to support CBP and the military personnel, light towers, barrier material, barbed and concertina wire, as well as cases of meals ready to eat, or MREs. We will be sending units from Fort Carson, but there are a number of Title X or active duty forces across the United States that are going to support this mission. And despite what you've heard on TV, it'll eventually equate to about 7,000 Title X forces. Just want to understand, we are in support of a lead federal agency. This is not a DoD lead, and that's a very important distinction to understand. We're there to take off the burden from CBP so they can do their job more effectively over a larger area of real estate. Any questions on that?
Thanks for all your work, Carol.
Thank you for that information, because sometimes, just every now and then, the press is not always clear or unbiased. Thank you.
It's kind of complicated, too. Hillary?
I would just like to kind of touch on what Val and Kelly had brought up a moment ago, and it does go back to the October Forest Council meeting, and I think it's really important to bring this up for all of us. What happened with reading that letter that was given to Mayor Levy, first of all, it was wrong because it was addressed to all council. So all council should have received that letter. It should not have been withheld from us. And that is, it makes me angry, because it also shows a lack of judgment while we're sitting up here, and a lack of proper and good decision making. And the only way our citizens can judge us is by the quality of decisions we make up here. And if something is addressed to all of us, it should come to all of us. It shouldn't just go to one selected person. The mayor has some extra duties that fellow council doesn't have, but he is not above us. We all sit here equally. So when something is addressed to all of us, it should come to all of us. And 3 of you knew, 3 of you had the letter, 3 of you read the letter, and you read that it was addressed to all of us. So I'm frustrated with that. And the reason I'm frustrated too is because I'm new, and I have seen the division that has happened up here. And I don't want that to continue. And I've seen bias, and I'm really frustrated because the letter that was read, not only did it attack one of our citizens, which should never be done up here, but it also didn't clearly communicate the truth of the law. And one of our jobs sitting up here is that we uphold and respect the law. We have an order. We have been told what the law is. A plaintiff is the person who brings the suit, and the plaintiff is the one who asked for that letter to be read. But they're blaming the defendants for triggering the lawsuit, and that is entirely incorrect. It's false fact. And we need to be really careful when we sit up here how we're going to communicate biased information to the point where we shouldn't communicate that biased information. And we do have the authority and the ability to use our personal judgment as to whether or not we're going to read something like that into the record. And something like that should have never been in the record. I don't care who the subject was. I care that it was a citizen. And it was a really crappy letter. And it was incredibly biased and totally misleading about the law. And that's where I have a big problem, is that it was completely misleading about the law. I'm not okay with that. I don't have a JD for nothing. And you will rarely ever hear me qualify myself, but it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing that all of us as professionals sit up here and can communicate something that is so sloppy and so untrue. It's not appropriate. And I just want to make all of you aware that I am familiar enough with parliamentary rules and Robert's rules that that was in complete violation of the will of the council to adjourn the meeting the way that it was. And I don't appreciate it. Because something like that, first of all, should have been handed to us, and debate should have been allowed. Because we would have had the right to defend the law, clarify our stance, and that letter made it look like we all just agreed because we couldn't say anything about it. So it's frustrating. The other thing I want to say is, with Robert's rules being adopted, and the current resolutions that we adopted on behavior, reading the letter was in violation of one of our resolutions. Because it was in violation of one of the resolutions, and also there are numerous areas of Robert's rules that it violated, we could easily have had a majority to motion to censure. We could have had a resolution of recusal on this DDA topic, because now that the lawsuit is in the public domain, all the crappy emails with all the talk about who supports who is out there. And unfortunately, Mr. Mayor, you're caught up in the middle of that. And it makes you look very biased on this topic. So if majority of council wanted to ask you to recuse yourself from that topic of voting, we could. Council Member Saunier and Council Member Sawyer had asked me that if we considered any such motions, that we wait until they're here because they would like to participate, because they do feel that it was a very biased act to read that letter. We can also ask the city attorney to investigate, because we have prima facie evidence that it's bias on your behalf, because we know that the plaintiffs have asked you to attack the reputations of the members of the boards of the DDA. It's out there.
I'm sorry. We don't
It's-
know that, and we need to...
It's in the court case.
The discussion that came forward is it appropriate to read every letter that is asked to be read into the record? Mayor Pro Tem Carr had, I think, some very succinct points, and I really appreciate what you read, that you violated your own motion.
It wasn't a citizen report, it was my report. It wasn't a citizen letter.
It was read into the record. And here's where I stand on that. If that was in fact addressed to the entire council, then we probably should have seen it before it was read into the record. I saw several letters tonight that were to the entire council. We did not read them into the record. But I would say that if someone asks for something to be read into the record, we do not censor that letter. It's unfortunate that we did not all see it, but if someone is asked to have something read into the record, then we have an obligation to read it and not censor it.
It does depend on what is said in the letter, and we do have resolutions that say that particularly.
Resolution for what? Are you talking about
Our council procedures,
Yeah,
yes.
That's one
So,
resolution.
and it says that we're not to attack anybody personally. And that letter did personally attack a member of our community. It did. And I do agree with you about the freedom of speech and putting things into the record and how important it is. And that's why I'm saying something right now, because I believe that it's important. But I do think that we have the ability to use good judgment and be careful about those types of things. And I think for your sake, and I'm just saying it personally, and having a legal background, you have to be very careful because it does appear biased. Because we do have the public information. It is out there. It does exist. And so I'm coming from a place of respect to say that's not any of our place up here. I don't care who our friends are. I don't care who our family is. If my father-in-law asked me to do something that's against the law or against a community member or against their reputation, there's no way I'd be willing to do that up here. This is not the place for that. If I want to be nasty to whoever I want to be nasty to outside of here, that's my life and that's my business. But up here I represent the citizens, and I have to do it as my oath requires me to and as the law requires me to. And I expect and hope that all of us sitting up here feel that way, and I do think we do. But I think occasionally it's easy to get lost with friends and neighbors and community. So when you get a letter like that, you've got to sit back and think if it is the right thing to do for the best judgment of the community as a whole, not just your friends or your personal opinion. And that's what I have to say about that topic.
Hillary, I appreciate what you just said. Truthfully, I have an entirely new level of respect for what you just said. But I still go back to the point. The only fault I would find with that incident, and I hope we can put this behind us because there are a lot of really important issues that we need to consider in months coming, is that we did not have the ability to see it before the mayor read it. But I do not want to be in the business of censoring anyone's First Amendment rights. I have been personally insulted at this dais, and it's just part of the job. It's just part of the job. But I don't want to censor anyone who wanted to insult me. It's fine.
I would suggest then that the individual come and read the letter.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that too. But we
If
can't
they want
always
it in the record.
But we still have letters that come to us that say, please read this into the record. Val just asked, please read this into the record, and there's a reason for that. It's there for folks to review and comprehend.
It can be part of the record without being read because it's in the minutes.
And that's why you introduce it. This was one that was asked to be read. And there have been other letters that people have asked to be read that I thought were distasteful, insulting, that they were asked to be read, and I don't feel, sitting on this dais, I can judge what's tasteful or distasteful.
Then if you can't read it without emotion and volume, it should be read by the clerk.
Probably a good point.
Thank you.
I would
Several weeks ago, we talked about making some modifications. I suggest we move forward on those. It's not like you guys don't have anything better to do, but
Thank you.
thank you.
Sounds good. We'll turn it over to the city manager.
I'm going to pass because in terms of it's a late night. I was going to present my critical information requirements to City Council. There were some issues with them tonight, so I'll present them. Try to present them at the next meeting or at a work session if we have one between now and then. It's probably better done in that form, anyways. But in lieu of that, Kip has a presentation. I hope you're still good on that, Kip.
Yes.
Just to discuss the pavement management plan in its draft form right now pretty quickly, and
I'll make it real quick.
Thank you.
We've received the draft form of the 2018 pavement management plan, currently in review, and hope to produce the final version of that very quickly.
That's your presentation.
Excellent job.
Just the way we like it.
Thank you.
Anything else from staff? All set? Okay, thank you all for being here tonight. This meeting is adjourned. Oh. Do you want me, can I just give you this stuff?
Yes.
So you don't lose it while I'm mine?
I'm Michael. Yourself.
Yeah.